Space Station Gaming taking the victory here against Kanga. Believe it or not, the middle-of-the-pack teams still looked fantastic, eking out 7 full games. Now, Pittsburgh Knights versus Renegades. Some interesting trends here.
Definitely.
Kind of a battle at the bottom.
Yeah, that's the way to put it. These are the two teams, 7 and 8. The cutoff is top 6, right where Kanga is sitting at the moment. But with Kanga definitely taking that loss, Renegades trending upwards in a big, big way, though they are the completely back of the pack team. Saw some big signs of life out of them against some top-tier competition last week. So up against the 7-seeded Knights, I think there's a real chance that the Renegades could not only win here today, but win confidently.
Let's take a look at a snapshot of the league right now. Nip up on top, 10 wins and only 1 loss, and that's really what we're hanging on here.
Yeah.
Renegades on the bottom side. These guys are 1-10 and still brought it to Ninjas in Pajamas. Nip looked like they actually had some competition. Now Renegades going out. It's going to be like swinging the bat with the donuts off. Renegades last night went up against the big heavy hitters. Now Pittsburgh Knights. I mean, what kind of competition is that in juxtaposition?
We'll have to see. You know, the Knights definitely have had their moments as well, but they're pretty few and far between at this point. Both teams have kind of just had a mentality shift. You know, you can only be at the bottom so long before something really needs to change. For the Renegades, it was who's doing their drafting and just sort of their mentality of going up against NIP.
Sure.
You know, you're looking up at a giant, an undefeated beast in this league. So you have to sort of just take that weight off your shoulders and say, well, you know, they are who they are. We are who we are. We have to just go at this on paper and try and take them down where we think they can be exploited.
And that's one of the scarier things if you want to talk about the bounce back to reality, because you look at what happened last week and there's this idea of like David versus Goliath. We got the slingshot out and nobody's got any plans for us, so you can play loose today versus against Pittsburgh Knights. This is a much more, you're supposed to be in this arena, so there's more weight on those shoulders. So glass half full, glass half empty type deal. I'm a city boy. I'm looking at this kind of negatively. Renegades going to have to play up here to Pittsburgh Knights.
Support versus support is important in this Knights Renegades matchup for a couple of reasons. In game, it's important because Furia just got a big buff, so you have a brand new support kind of coming into rotation. Viral has already shown the propensity to want to play this character, albeit of a different style, but he will have that experience of how to rotate, use ultimates, things that are still the same no matter what talent he's playing. A lot of experience on a lot of different support. One of the most versatile supports in the game. But you look at the side of Cuss Cutie as well. He's a hometown name, right? He's a hero, I think, from Pittsburgh, playing for the Knights. He's coming from winning team zone. That's been the biggest struggle for him today. So if Viral can get out ahead and get good support. I mean, you look at these clips. You're seeing Saris. You're seeing Ying. You're seeing Furia. We know he's played a lot of Grover back in the day. It's everything in the kitchen sink. So the fact that Genos is seeing a lot of bans and supports are getting that ban attention in the draft probably won't affect him too much.
That's a big point that you bring up about Renegades, because that's not something that just Viral does. That's the identity of the entire team. I look at Invocal coming out here, and he's a very all-around character. We're showing Shadow here as well. And this Renegade squad, as a unit, stepped up against Nip. And what I think is interesting is that one of the guys we haven't talked about, Hero, was really the standout performer last week.
Yeah, really great stuff across the board, and it has to be. This league, if anything, has shown us that it has to be a 5-man effort. There really can be glorious moments, of course, individually across the board, across a set, but it has to be the entire team pulling their weight. You can't have somebody falling behind the curve. And Shadow, though, being a substitute for the majority of this first phase, finally getting locked down and confirmed as a full-time roster member, I think has done wonders for not only his confidence, but his play as well. He's one of the few guys that can pull out Eevee in a league like this where the Eevee players are world-class. You're talking about Freeze God, you're talking about Fisheko that you have to square off against. But despite all that, that was still his home. That's still his comfort pick, and he doesn't care what the name in the kill feed is. It's all about how he's performing on the day.
There's so much power in that. We talked about Renegades going up against NIP last week and how, you know, when you're up against a team like that, you can just throw caution to the wind and play your own game. That's what Shadow does on a regular basis. He's just here to go out and do that. Just play his own thing, punch people in the brain, and then after it's all said and done, look in the rearview mirror. But while he's playing, it's all straightforward.
And that was so much fun to watch. Specifically, that was like the best last highlight to show was the turbo speed king bomb, just straight into the face, punching NIP in the brain. It didn't matter, David and Goliath. Renegades were still there throwing the haymakers, trying to knock them down. And they did in a lot of cases. And it's that type of pressure and fearlessness and confidence in the team and their ability to execute, which is what I think gives them the edge here over the Knights today, because that is exactly from the horse's mouth something that Knights have said we struggled with, is that confidence in our ability to lean on each other and execute as a unit.
Renegades have done exactly that, though. Focus and function as a unit. Standing by with one piece of that unit is Dulcin, the unit himself.
Appreciate it, fellas, down here in the booth with the Renegades. Of course, Powtek, the coach, standing by with me. One thing I would say after your games last week, of course, some tough games, but the community at large really saw a big turnaround for you guys. Would you agree with that, and how are you feeling coming into today?
It's actually really surprising how supportive the whole community is of us losing, but I mean, it's very nice to see everyone supportive of us.
Yeah, and I think we've seen a lot of growth, honestly, throughout the entire split, but looking at the team on the opposite side, another team who's had some struggles, of course, in the Knights, how do you think you match up with them today?
We've come really, really prepared. Going to give them a hell of a show.
We already had one Game 7 today. You think we got another Game 7 for us?
No.
No Game 7 for you guys, no Game 7?
It's going to be a 4-0.
4-0, says the head coach in Powtek. The boys here on the desk are liking it. We've seen Furia. We've seen some interesting healers today. Terminus coming through. Any cheese on your side?
To them, it'll be cheese, but to us, it'll be normal.
Absolutely. Well, you heard it here first. Thanks for talking with us. Best of luck in the games. Send it back to the desk.
The Renegades dealing with the dairy. I'm totally down to see some weird stuff. That's what I sign up for, so please bring it to us. That's interesting, though, because of the way Powtek worded it. It won't be cheese to us, but to them it will. Where does your mind go with that statement?
Honestly, given what we've seen today with the Grover and the fact that Dulcin commented that Viral immediately sort of turns around, it may, and how versatile we saw just even in his highlight reel, how many different supports he's been playing. We've already seen Grover once. I don't know. He leaned that way heavily before Grover ran into some issues that prevented him from being played. So if he's back in the pool and healthy and ready to go, that's an inkling that I have.
I'm in. Very excited to see that. Across the way, of course, Renegades have to deal with the Pittsburgh Knights. And you talked about this guy earlier on. One of the staples of the Paladin scene for sure. He calls Pittsburgh home, and he's wearing their jersey. Cuss Cutie.
Yeah. It's a great pickup for them. I'm really glad that he did get to find his way onto this squad to represent his city. That's a very fun thing for him to do, and he definitely deserves it. One of the longest-standing Paladins competitive players playing support pretty much the whole damn time as well, playing a little bit of frontline and DPS way back in the day. But Cuss Cutie is a household name in Paladins at this point. He's got great versatility as well on the supports, notably the Ying, who is really only the really old guys like Gara and Cuss play this character, because she went for a really long almost drought in the middle of the game's life where she just was not so much looked at. Cuss Cutie, he's going to be able to step up to the plate to meet Viral. That's really what we were talking about is Furious coming back in. We saw a little bit of Grover. Both these players can play Sarah, so I don't know how much priority in the picks and bans Genos will see, given the versatility of both of these support players.
The support definitely is one of the important parts. That's why Cuss Cutie, comes in so importantly. But G-Bunny has been a standout player here recently, and he, the supports and the aggro tanks are kind of in that same little, low brass section, if you will, where they're providing the rhythm. They're that backbone of the team. And when you have Cuss and you've got G-Bunny out here, combination, it makes the job so much easier for the DPS players, which is important.
Absolutely is. And that's why, off-tank has really been one of the most important roles of this season because of all the things that you sort of said. It makes it easier for the DPS, but, you haven't been here for this, but I say this a lot where does it matter who's pulling the trigger at the end of the day?
Exactly.
If the off-tank is out there creating the map control and the space for you to pull said trigger, and that's what G-Bunny has had to do. And that's what all the off-tanks have had to do with, 3 or 4 bans realistically in the off-tank session. Makoa, Atlas, Torvald, all taking a seat 99% of the time. These guys are asked to play a lot of different stuff.
And in doing so, they've got to be able to be on the top of their game on all these different picks. And G Bunny, and I mentioned this, and I hate to be kind of negative here, but when you look at Ricotta and Payan, these guys have their moments, but struggle a lot. And I think it's part of the reason why PK is down on the bottom side. So when you look at the support side, you really need Cuss and G Bunny to bring the pain here so that this team can succeed. Pittsburgh Knights, though, they've got a lot to say beforehand. Let's see what Dawson got alongside him.
Thank you, guys. Down here now in the Pittsburgh Knights booth, of course, with Vapor, the head coach of the Knights. I want to jump in and kind of focus on where the Renegades have been. They had a tough week last week, but I would say everyone has really seen a strong improvement out of them. You guys, another team that are definitely trending upwards. What do you see in the Renegades squad?
Well, Renegades have been improving a lot recently. Obviously from last week as well. We've been doing the same, and I think it's going to be a very good game because I think both teams have a lot to prove still since we're at the bottom, and so we're more hungry, more driven than the other teams, and I feel like this game is going to be really good. Yeah.
Could be. We already had one Game 7. It could be another Game 7 over here on the books for us. I already heard you guys chatting just a little bit. We saw Terminus earlier today come through. Maybe expect some cheese in this set?
Maybe, since everything's open, we're going to see a lot of different unique pits. Maybe might be standard. Who knows? We'll see. We'll have to see when the games go down.
Do you have anything that you need to capitalize on specifically in order to beat the Renegades today?
Basically, we just need to play more as a team. I think with both Renegades and our team, we struggle we make a lot of more individual plays. Both teams need to be more team oriented and on the same page with each other and synergize very well. So I think and I think we're stronger than them regarding that. And so I think it's gonna be a good game.
Got it. Well, appreciate it. Thanks for talking with me. Best of luck to you guys today. Let's send it back to the desk and get this set moving.
Thanks a lot there, Dawson. Always good to talk to Vapor as far as I'm concerned. And what I heard there was a lot of words said, but all I heard was team, synergy. Yeah. That's the biggest deal here on the coach's mind. The squad just needs to play as a unit.
And that's why I really like this mentality shift for the Renegades and for the Knights. Barring the Renegades, everyone that has stuck together is who is continuing to kind of do well. NIP is largely the same as last year. Na'Vi is exactly the same. Envy is exactly the same. SSG is all but one player exactly the same. So when you look at that, that's a team that, they've been playing together. They have been building this synergy. They have been working as a team. Whereas when you look at the Knights and Kanga and VP, those are largely, new monsters that were stitched together for the purpose of this LAN league where everyone is in the same pool of players. And it's taken some time for those guys to really find their footing and find who they are as a squad of 5.
Got to play catch up. That's exactly what we're looking here. Khan, the first selection, as our bans are relatively standard. Knights will answer back with an Ashe as per usual and the Eevee. Is this what you consider to be your quintessential? This is how it starts.
This is the most vanilla opener. Yep. Granted that there are 2 Eevee players in the set, and by this point in the phase, I think enough people have been abused by Freeze God and Fisheko and even Alex and Evil Eye at this point where it's really tough to let Eevee go 9th pick and have it blow you apart.
That's the fun of these games, man, is that we look at meta game and what shifts the meta, and that's a much larger conversation for a much larger period of time. But you look at, there's patches in the game, there's just happenstance, and then there's players like Freeze God. You have to play Eevee just to take it away from him. So if it's not in your champ pool, you're kind of doing your team and yourself a disservice. So the Knights grab up Eevee, Ashe, and their point tank being discussed. Could be the Barrack, and there's the Grover you were talking about.
But it's not for Viral, it's for Cuss Cutie. And again, I tried to harp on it as much as I could. Versatility of both of these support players. Neither will ever hesitate or be afraid to play absolutely anything.
Which is exactly, your Renegades you mentioned before Grover went to the wayside. That's kind of where this team was.
That was like a staple for them, yeah.
And Knights remember that, they're Pepperidge Farm here. They're going all the way back and saying, all right, we remember, buddy. And the tree is going to be locked up here for the Knights. Renegades finishing up their draft. Thinking about Tyra and Maldamba one more time to go with Khan, Cassie, and Nara.
And the way Grover, he's basically a big healing totem, right? He's going to kind of move around and have this big radius. but he's not that low cooldown, high throughput, spamming, Ceres or Damba or Furia type of healer. So your positioning and your timing of your heals are incredibly important, which puts all the more weight on Cuskcutie to perform on this pick. Now, where this fell through for me last set on Splitstone Quarry was, you just saw them. They were able to be choked out so effectively. Space Station Gaming took control of 80% of the map and left Kango with their nice little cubbyhole 20.
Choose your words carefully,
That's not
heathen,
as likely to happen
last.
on Stone Keep, or if it does happen, it's not as difficult to deal with as it would be on Splitstone Quarry. So the Knights are going to have to play that way. That's the thing about Grover, is like he's one of the few supports that when you pick him, you kind of sit there and say, okay, this is how they're going to do it. This is how their composition has to function, because Grover, like I said, he is a healing totem. You have to fight around him if you want sustain.
Grover, Barrack, thinking about the last choice here. Amani would be nice, and it will be Amani.
Under water's protection.
Very interesting choice here, and an interesting draft in general for the Knights.
Yeah, she's really fallen off. Saw some adjustments, and one of the big adjustments was the reduction in just base flight speed of her Frost Bomb projectile. Now, you can get this not only back to where it was with a new loadout card, you can actually get it faster than it used to be, but it's such a big investment, and Amani, it's critical that you have Frostfire glide speed, because at base, that movement ability is extremely slow, and the players will not miss shots even if you're flying through the air with that ability.
Some interesting picks. Zip as we jump into it. Knights, Renegades, game 1.
I'm still Dolson, but that's not Nick anymore. That's Gormizer here for set number 2. And we had a game 7 and set number 1.
You're running the gauntlet right now.
I'm running the gauntlet right now. Could be back-to-back. Well, let's hear what you think. Do you think this could be another game 7, Gore?
This is such an interesting
I
dynamic.
love that.
Specifically because I think both of these teams tend to choke when they have pressure put on them. I think the Knights are a little more consistent overall, but Renegades, if they play the way they did last week,
yeah, honestly,
that's all you need.
That's the big
that's
question mark.
That's a 4-0 if you play like that.
That's
if
the
you
big question
play
mark.
like Renegades from 3 weeks ago, then all of a sudden we're up in the air.
I was kind of talking, of course, in my interview with Powtech. I was like, well, honestly, everyone, the community, everyone across the board seemed to think that despite, and I mean, the games were 4-0 for them last week, but I said despite all of that, within those games you had a couple 4-3s. Like, the community at large was really coming to their support. Like, wow, you guys, and it was notably against NIP and Virtus Pro, they took them to the distance there, just didn't come up in their favor. So I agree with you. If they're able to bring that same fire today, I said it on Twitter as well, like the wins will come if they continue to play like that.
And not to put the pressure on them, but it does come down, like Hero played phenomenally last week. I don't think Hero has to have that phenomenal performance, right? I think Moonchopper is where things will pivot for them, because Moonchopper, I mean, even in that Virtus Pro set, you could tell the minute he kind of gets out of the zone, the minute he is kind of knocked down, he just doesn't play the same way anymore. And I think that's what they were coming in with. They had someone who was willing to play pretty much the exact way you need your off-tank to play. Not uncaring, but with aggression.
And both teams were really divided up, Church and Keep here in this case, but the Pittsburgh Knights, they jump that divide. They find 2 kills here. Renegades were on the point first, but Pittsburgh Knights, they find those ever so important kills. And now they're the ones putting a zone in onto the Renegades. They have a couple respawns in and available, 48% on the point here for the Knights. Does bode well for them. Still plenty of time for the Renegades to retake in this case. But just some pokes that ended up being capitalized on there from PK.
And this was another one of those maps where, when we're looking at Grover specifically, this is a solid map for Grover. But I also think this might end up being where we see like Amani come through, maps more like this. Because, again, while the Frostbomb speed was reduced, it's still just as efficient as it was before. And on a map like this, you don't really need the speed. Like, it's still going to hit that same distance.
Oh, everything's getting thrown at the wall here for Pittsburgh, including the Whirlwind, and I think that's exactly what they needed to win that fight. Renegades found a couple, but it's just too little, just too late. Pittsburgh Knights with a very slow-played, patient first team fight. They find point number 1 here in set number 2.
Just doing whatever they can. Unfortunate for Shadow gets taken down right there. And now the control comes through. Like, Moonchopper, if he's able to pick up a kill off that toss, then I think it makes a big difference. But Dethroner, this is something that I think, again, is showcasing the talents of the Knights. And that is that they have 5 solid players. But I would argue that 3 of them, maybe 4 of them, are going to have hit or miss days.
True.
Whereas, like, Renegades, they have 5 solid players, And it's not even all 5, but like if even 2 of them have a miss on their day instead of a hit, it all falls apart.
That was nearly a very valuable Dragon. I mean, it was valuable in the sense that it forced Renegades so far back. Look at the health bars, top left of your screen there. So many are so low. They need the healing to come through from Viral, and he does just that. They're able to delay that just long enough. The Knights very grouped up here in this side keep. Ooh, within an inch of his life there. But does not end up dropping is Invocal. The Ice Storm came out, bought a little bit of damage, bought a little bit of distance. G-Bunny is way too deep right now. Hero is going to benefit from that. But make no mistake, there's still a minute left on the clock here. They'll be fine to just regroup, get back, let the respawns come through. Nice shots from Shadow. They're going to hold this defense firm. And now the Knights, they use their Whirlwind, they use their Ice Storm, the Dragon as well. Renegades fighting with 5 strong on the defensive end here. And now it's the ever so important balance score of, all right, we have the ultimate advantage obviously right now. How much can we burn? How much do we want to burn on this defense to get us point number 1?
And that's kind of the big question. During the point fight, you are absolutely willing on either side to throw out some ults. I mean, we heard a Crossfire and a Whirlwind come through. And I think Whirlwind's going to be the most likely to get thrown out. But Dread Serpent already coming through, just trying to create some space. And blinks into it.
He blinks right into it. I don't think it's going to cost him his life, but what it does cost is the presence at all in the fight. Dethroner's the only one who ends up dropping there. But that was, I don't know, well played from the Dread Serpent, I guess, that right when the blink in came through from the Eevee, from Pan, right into the Dread Serpent. A bit unfortunate of an interaction there. Pittsburgh Knights are down 1 member, 10 seconds left. They're going to have to get in and get the touch. So they do use the Scout, which is, you know, sort of neither here nor there, especially on a map like this where there's only so many different routes you can go. But the Dread Serpent, that's important going into the next point fight, but still only 1 ultimate ready for the Knights. You could call it 2. The early pick goes on to pay, and that's going to set up this Renegades defense very well.
And the longer this fight goes on, the better it is going to be for the Knights. Not only coming in hot with a kill on the Shadow, but also ult charge-wise, they're going to be able to charge up whatever they need. Even if this goes 1-1, they're going to start the next fight at an advantage because of that one. And the shots are really good from this Amani
That was an important kill.
But once you get rid of Dethroner, it's you know, the head of the Hydra.
It's exactly what it was. It is the hero kill there onto Dethroner because things were, despite the early pick onto Payan, onto that Eevee, things were kind of looking shaky there for the Renegades on defense. Getting the kill onto Dethroner, ever so important in this case. Invocal coming up big a few times in that fight, getting him on the Tyra here in this case. And looking pretty good while doing it.
There was a lot, I think, for the Renegades that spoke well of their defense. I feel like the best thing the Knights have going for them, though, one is going to be ult charges coming into this next round, but also just their play style, the way that they've kind of drafted. Again, Grover is really good on this map because you're so clumped up. I mean, you're going to take to the right-hand side of the map. You're going to go up the stairs, up the ramp. You're still within range of his healing. If you're down below the ramp, you're still within range of his healing. Like, he's going to be able to hit you almost anywhere. And that shot right there, he did it the first round, he did it the second round. Cuss being able to dismount and kind of control some of the Renegades' initial path.
You know, I was going to say that's super impactful, but they end up getting that high ground anyway, and Vocal finds a kill onto Cuss Cutie, so the healing is entirely gone. But that's such a huge dragon, melts away the health bars of the Pittsburgh Knights, and nobody's turning around to deal with it. He only gets a double, but I think he did the vast majority of the damage in that one. Well played, well timed, and the Pittsburgh Knights, huge team fight, and they're on the point again.
And honestly, if you're looking at it, the Knights kind of gave up that high ground, and you might think they gave it up pretty easily, and that's why. You're locked in a room. I can just send a dragon in there, and where are you going to run?
You're stuck in here with us. We're not stuck in here with you, is exactly what they say. In this case, the Crossfire from Invocal coming through. Dethroner with a good dome shield, just going to buy a little bit of time. Overtime in favor of the Knights. 0% now on the point for the Renegades. Hero's going to get on it, get the initial touches here. He has to back out. 85 health, but Moonchopper with the long-range shots, especially on the con, sees to it that the fight goes the Renegades' way this time around. And it looks like they've stabilized and retaken the point.
Luckily for the Knights, though, it's 99%. They get to have all the room in the world. They can relax a little bit. They have an Eevee with an Ice Storm. Unfortunately, though, it's the only ult they have to be able to come in and retake. Normally, having an assert dominance here is like the #1.
This could be a good Dread Serpent as well. Ooh, nice wall.
And Renegades are in a good position to try and hold on. Overtime will definitely come through, but maybe a little early, actually, on the trigger.
The zoning Dread Serpent, and that's exactly what I was looking for from Viral. Put it down so anyone who wants to get in there can get the retake. But now both teams really have overtime. The early kill going in favor of Renegades. It's a 4v5 fight, and oh, look at that Whirlwind, so much value. They're able just to face tank all the damage. Rakata drops in Vocal, but still fighting from the high ground. So many free heals, but the heals are not enough in this case. And what a retake from the Knights. The Renegades were perfectly positioned But the Knights, they kick down that door, and they get point number 2.
Lasts long enough that Payan's able to come back in. And the Dread Serpent, as you called it, like did exactly what it needed to. But the thing is that Payan recognized what the threat was, what was going on, and why they did it, and said, you know what? I'll die for this. Like, I will die for this overtime. And because they had Whirlwind, if they don't have Whirlwind, that's a loss for the Knights. But because they are able to get that essentially reset button for the fight, they can not only stay in it, but they start pushing them back. They get one good pick, a couple good picks, and then all of a sudden you have an Ice Storm, Eevee's back in the fight, a Dragon comes out of nowhere, and they are perfectly set and poised to continue their reign of terror.
They stormed the gates. I mean, they quite literally, the Whirlwind came through. They busted down the lower front doors even. They fought themselves upwards, and they captured this point here. This is getting dangerously close. This is a little bit different from last time around in that the payload didn't get this close until overtime was there. G-Bunny drops down the banner up top, and Vocal's going to be the recipient of that stun. That's a good route as well. That prevents them maybe from getting in and contesting. Unfortunately now, it's Hero who gets traded out. They might not be in contest range just as of yet. Payan finds number 2 in this fight, and now that's 3 points on the board for the Knights. 1 point away from taking game number 1.
And the biggest thing out of that was actually the timing of the kills.
Yeah.
They got rid of Inara, and you could see Moonchopper moving around the balcony, like trying to bide his time to jump down. Didn't want to jump down into essentially a pit of sharks while they were still there and hungry. But then he almost waited too late. There was no amount of damage he was going to, I guess, get through. And he ends up getting burned down. And this Dragon, like this one didn't even need to come through. It was it was just make sure they get burned out.
And that's such an interesting thing to look at, Gore, is just Amani in general. Week 1, she came out. She was picked almost in every single game that we saw, or banned. But she's kind of fallen in and out of favor here. Why do you think that is?
Honestly, a lot of it does have to do, and this is something I will say, some of the teams and some players will have knee-jerk reactions for some nerfs, but I do think that the slowness of that bomb gives a lot of counterplay for her. But obviously, Ricotta is showcasing you can still make it work. I think people are just favoring Cassie over her.
Everyone, this is such a good fight for the Renegades because everyone's so clumped up right here. The Dread Serpent right into the seismic crash, into the crossfire as well. That's a clumped up team fight if I've ever seen one, and that benefits the Renegades. They will have fast cap here, so 46. 50% is going to be the way that ticks up 4% per tick when you're down by 2 points in this case. The Knights are going to have to fight their way back into it, but they did exactly that last time around. They only have the Ice Storm, though. Last time they had so much more value. The Whirlwind, not ready. They use that in point fight number 1. There's the Ice Storm, finds some good chunk damage, but no kills coming out just as of yet. Moonchopper locks up 1, locks up the healer notably with the overpower, and with the healing gone now for the Pittsburgh Knights, this could spell victory for the Renegades.
It's going to be big, though. If they can get rid of Dragon, G-Bunny or not. The Dragon is out. It does get taken down. Viral going to be able to find the kill actually onto Amani there to eliminate it all, and that's going to be hurting Ricotta.
How'd they retake that fight? Everything looked so perfect right there for the Renegades. Dethroner with a double kill. They found the early kill on the Cuss Cutie with the overpower. The healing was gone. But the Pittsburgh Knights just self-sustained through it, essentially. The Dragon, I guess, bought just enough time. And the Pittsburgh Knights, Gore, they could win the game right here.
I mean, it's the amount of space they were able to buy, right? You get Dethroner on this point. He's going to do his job, and that is exactly what he's been able to accomplish so far. 99-93, and they're in control. If Payan doesn't go down here, then they are going to be able to find several kills.
Oh, my. And it doesn't even come down to it. The Dread Serpent was on the high ground, but look at that. The last-ditch dash in there. And what scares me, Gore, and you know, Renegades didn't necessarily play a bad game there, but that's almost a revert to how the Renegades used to perform, you know? And that's what it looks like there. I mean, they were playing lights out. They went down 4-0, you know, 2 games last week, but they were somehow, I mean, they were right in there in all of those games. This one was one of the more convincing games I've seen out of the opposing team in the last few weeks.
And honestly, these post cams can show a lot about these teams. You see immediately Knights are up, like good job, like being able to find fist bumps, hugs, whatever. Renegades were damn near silent when we cut to them, and that was 5, 6, 10 seconds afterward. Like, then Moonchopper I see start to like speak up a little bit, but like you have to kind of keep yourself in that mentality. Like, they are, I think both of these teams that will get down on themselves, and once they do that, you can almost count them out of the next game. Renegades have been fighting back really well, so it's going to be interesting to see how they can handle game 2.
The bounce back will be important from the Renegades in game number 2, but could potentially only go 4 games if the Knights keep up the pace they've set. Let's send it back to the desk and hear their thoughts on game number 1.
The bounce back is certainly important because, as we kind of painted up here, the bounce back from the NIP game last week was supposed to propel Renegades. But
yeah,
kind of the other side, Pittsburgh Knights take game 1.
I think the Knights do a really good job at bringing out something that's not really of the flavor of the current meta. They're bringing out the Amani. It does almost 100,000 damage. Cuscuti brings out the Grover as well, 141,000 healing. The ability to emergency reset a fight with Grover Ultimate is great. The Dragon found good value as well. I really loved Rukata's ability to actually find a home on Amani. And I think it was smart because Renegades don't draft a flanker. No Maeve, no Eevee, nothing to dive onto this relatively immobile character in the Amani. So she's allowed to kind of sit back, sit next to her big mobile healing totem, a.k.a. Grover, and do her thing.
And then we talked a lot about the importance of these guys, G-Bunny and Dethroner, the front line here for Pittsburgh Knights. And G-Bunny absolutely did the work. Fantastic amount of damage, more importantly, the stuff that doesn't make it onto the scoreboard. His ability to just take up space and harass the opposition. Renegades never felt comfortable. There's no number. There ain't no stat that says how uncomfortable the opposing team is, but they are not sitting pretty after that one.
Yeah, something that's tough to measure, but you have to give it credit when you see it happening in front of you. That's our job, though, and we do our best to give credit to those unsung heroes. A lot of times the supports and the front lines can really go under the radar, and DPS players get all the credit. And I think there's some truth to that, but this season has been the season of the off-tank, and they've been such critical drivers of team success. G-Bunny, I definitely commend this guy for always maintaining a pretty positive attitude, even for a momentum-based team like the Knights, who is, we only see them lose. They're at damn near the bottom of the league, so you don't get to see these guys excited and after those wins and stuff like that. But through all of that, I always have known G-Bunny to be kind of like a smiling face in the crowd. And so it's always good to see that type of resilience on a team like the Knights who have been struggling this phase.
Well, new stuff all around. We're seeing Grover and Terminus, and now we're going to see Bazaar.
I'm excited.
I guess they're not new, but they're kind of back, so sort of new. But how bizarre. This is the second time we're going to get to see this
I think
map.
so, in the Premier League, yes.
Second time we get to see Bazaar in the PPL. Real quick, give us a breakdown of the map.
So one of the unique things about this map is that per square foot, I think Ascension Peak still has the biggest capture point, but this is a very, very large capture point. Don't get it twisted, with an even larger, only singular statue in the middle. So this is really good for something like an Inara. She can wall herself up in a little triangle corner of this arena. It's not a full building, a full surround by any means, but there is kind of cornerstone walls, 4 ways to get in, 4 ways to get out, so Inara can't completely shut down this objective. You can contest the objective from on top of these cornerstone walls, which is an interesting element, something like a flanker with mobility, double jump. They can get up onto the wall, get that overtime touch, and quickly fall back down to safety. The biggest, most unique element of this map, though, is the gates. There's these portcullises that will really just kind of shut off a couple of lines of sight, a couple of angle, but they will open only for the team that belongs on that side of the map. So the defense can only open those blue team can open the blue gates, red team can open the red gates. But if you open one of those gates, it's proximity, so it's going to be open a little bit as you approach and then a little bit after you go through. So you could have somebody follow you through and open up a really big, potent flank route for them.
Certainly very interesting. Sniper map, yay or nay?
Not quite from what we've seen. I only have 1 point of data for Premier League Bazaar play, so I'm not ready to rule anything out. It is a little bit of a longer line of sight, but probably leaning more towards those power mid-rangers like Cassie, maybe a Mani, something like that.
Khan, there he is. Big guy, little head. First pick here for the Knights. Renegades on the other side. Ash and Eevee. That's how we do
Back at it again. And this is cool for the Knights. I mean, obviously, Renegades, Knights kind of flip-flopping what order they're picking stuff in. So you're looking at maybe Renegades liking this style of composition a little bit better, but overall, power picks are kind of power picks, and this map doesn't differ enough from Stone Keep to rule out what we saw last game.
Meanwhile, if I'm Knights, Knights are in a great position because Renegades are really trying to figure it out and what went wrong, and I love this adaptation. Knights, on the other hand, are just sitting there like, well, I mean, we're the ones that won. And you got the Ash and Eevee, and we still won. So do whatever you want. But this response, I think, is really, really intelligent. Detroit go ahead and they pick up Barrick, which is what Knights played so very well. I think we didn't even mention him that much in the postgame, but I think the Throner's presence in that game was really, really felt by the Knights, and I think the Barrick was a big part of the reason why.
That's a great note, and putting pressure onto Throner is something a lot of teams have done, whether it's forcing him to, and like we said, you have to be able to play so much because your champion pool is pushed to the absolute limits. Fernando is the last sort of off-tank or point front line that you want to play. Inara is thankfully still available, so I think that's where he'll go, but he is definitely a very, very strong Barrack player, so getting him off of that is definitely a boon for the Renegades.
Surprising that we don't see the Knights select. It would be surprising that we don't see the Knights select for Dethroner here. But I think Eevee and Grover, Eevee just powerful in her own right, and Grover last game proved so successful, specifically to what Knights wanted to do. So when I see Grover here selected, not only does that tell me they like game number one, obviously, because they took home the W, come on, but also kind of hints at what other characters they want to add to this, because Eevee's not exactly chilling next to Grover.
Exactly. Eevee has a lot of self-sustain, which is going to allow her to do her thing. Obviously, you have to play safer without the sustain of a Genos or some type of cross-map healer. But I think, by and large, the point fight takes place in a very large rectangle. So you kind of fight kitty-cornered from the opposing team. They take a back corner, you take a back corner, and you're sort of like poking at each other across the way a little bit. And I think Grover, like we said, because of the way this point is set up, there's two levels to it. So you have those little cornerstone walls that Grover can hide behind. There's also a bottom floor, almost like a basement floor, below where the primary fight sort of happens. So you can see him rotate under there. There's a big circle target on the ground, but Grover heals in like a big sphere around him. All of the space, as long as it's within that range, whether it be above him, whether it be below him, I guess is going to be all fair game. And I guess a cylindrical prism is probably a better way to describe that shape, but rather than a sphere.
Cylindrical prism. Me pulling out Atlas to go back in time to the 10th grade. All right, man. We'll see that. Dethroner right now looks both unconcerned and very concerned. Like he looks like
that's just his face.
That's not what I'm saying. Right there, we finally see the Inara selection. Do you expect to see Dethroner Khan or Inara?
Inara. I think this is going to be really, really fun to watch because Inara has a lot to do on this map. Like I said, with the wall giving you the ability to literally triangle, like box yourself in where nobody can get to you. Nobody, well, Maeve can. She can jump above your head and get down in there. Now Renegades have an answer for that, but a small little thing or min-maxing that Inara can do. She can't wall off entire corridors here, so really the wall I expect to be used more defensively to keep herself safe. I'm very curious to watch Dethroner and how he plays around this objective.
I'm glad to see the Tyra pick as well. I think the Grover here was kind of sitting in a spot where, all right, Eevee's going to be flying around. I'm not going to chase her and heal her. Tyra is going to be a little bit more stationary and get that healing from Grover. So
this
a pick,
be fun.
Not just for pick's sake. This is a bouncy composition on both sides.
I'm really excited. Just this map is a lot of fun. It's cool to see, like, with a brand new map, it's only been out for like a week and a half, 2 weeks. Who's done their homework? Who's kind of gotten ahead of the curve here?
Yeah, that's exactly what we're looking for. You know, like when I asked Nick earlier, I said, man, you know, we're expecting snipers. We don't know what to expect here on this map. We've got a draft. Let's get a game.
Gore, these drafts are bizarre. Yeah, nice. We're starting it off.
Get a snare and I guess they use. I wonder, do you use a hi-hat for that? I don't know. Whatever symbol that you would use.
It is a symbol up top that you then grab with your hand to prevent it from.
So just like a normal crash symbol. Just
yeah, right.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, to whatever duration you want. If you.
Well, yeah.
And you know what you can do is. You could do symbols, like hand symbols, so you do bum bum on the snares, and then somebody else has the hand symbols, and then you drop them to give that like spinning around sound effect.
I can hear it.
So there's lots of ways you can go.
I was in band through high school and college. I know what people dropping symbols sounds like.
Talk to me a little bit about Bizarre, because I mean, puns aside, it is sort of bizarre map that people are kind of starting to figure out here.
It's actually really fun because you can see what Nick was describing around the point fight, but specifically the way teams approach this. The balconies that are facing each other are different than any balconies on any other map, the way they face each other. So you're going to be fighting kind of perpendicular to your base instead of parallel to. And because of that, you're going to have to approach some of these fights in a different manner. It actually ends up helping the Mave, ends up helping the EV a little more in getting their job done, but it also kind of isolates them in the fight doing so.
You know, it's almost akin to, I mean, if you have to draw parallel, the point fight is almost similar to like a Shattered Desert in that both teams end up rotating out of their base around the sides.
They do a little dance.
They do a little dance, make a little love, get down tonight. You know, all that comes out, and Pittsburgh Knights find 84% on the point, and 1 kill came through for the Renegades there, but that's all Pittsburgh Knights needs to get point number 1.
I mean, G-Bunny's 3-0. And
he is indeed 3-0.
The best way to preface that was if you were watching his player cam pre-game, he just had a big smile. He was laughing. He was having the time of his life. And they had locked in 2 champions. Like they didn't even have a quote-unquote winning draft yet. They got the Eevee, they got the Khan, and then they got the Grover. And like that was the happiest I think I've seen G-Bunny outside of after a win. He gets trapped behind the fence.
Oh, no.
It won't open up the other way around, but you could argue that might actually help him here.
Wait, is he able to get out alive? There's no way, because Payan was kind of the last line of defense there. That is such a funny interaction. I mean, we talk about these gates, and you know it's an interesting mechanic in the game, but you don't really see it come into play that much because it's often just teams exiting their base. But in that case, he just got like literally 1 step too aggressive, and then the door slammed shut behind him. And honestly benefits the Renegades in that point once they're able to clean up the kill here. About a minute and a half left for them. But we were talking to F-Dot, obviously doing his homework, making sure he's up to date with all of the happenings here in the PPL. We talked about how G-Bunny has really adapted to this meta very well.
Yeah. And so far, that was the one mistake. 1 step, right? Overall, you come into this, I think if you see him go back and actually fight where they are right now, it's a different story. This is a fight on the end of an Inflame. This is a fight that Renegades are only looking solid on because they just did such big damage beforehand. Whereas now, I mean, they still lose the Ashe even though they're able to get to Throner. They're still losing pressure on this payload. It's moving forward.
Oh, no.
And I think losing G-Bunny here is probably the best thing Renegades could do. Like, controlling G-Bunny controls the team. I think everyone else here will be afloat. I think Payan has potential to pop off. The same thing goes for literally anybody else on the Knights. But G-Bunny is consistently good. He is the Invocal of this team, right? Where it's like, he's always going to be a great off-tank.
Right.
It's just, how does everyone else perform around him?
Right, he can open the space. You need to capitalize on the space that he provides you. There's a very, again, we were talking about sort of the doors and how G-Bunny got trapped in behind the door to start off that fight. But what we also saw was from the Renegades, they exited the door around for an initial flank when the payload was right where it was. You know, it offers not only a defensive trap but an offensive route out the other way here. Getting very close. So overtime is going to start. Cuskcutie finding Invocal to start off on this map. Could be big. Could spell the end now for the Renegades. This payload so close to going through. Get its 2 stuns now with the Assert Dominance, but there's no backup. There's no more damage coming through. He finds a couple stuns, but the rest of the Renegades are trapped in their base. Moonchopper and Hero going down. Nobody's left to contest. And the Knights find point number 2.
And that is going to be a fight on 2 fronts. There's multiple things going on. First off, shout outs to the Throner, like getting aggressive when he did, just because he's pushed up and he's kind of playing distraction for what is going on behind him, which is Payan, who unfortunately didn't get the blink through the gate that he was going for, didn't get all the shots through the gate either, but Sword over the wall was kind of in the back line where Renegades weren't really expecting anyone to walk through. There's a gate over there. You shouldn't be back here. And so he's fighting on one side. And then G-Bunny just rips Moonchopper out of that Assert Dominance and says, all right, boy, you're over here now.
And it was a great Assert Dominance. It was a great Assert Dominance, and then the Overpower just eliminated it. I mean, Moonchopper saw the opening, got the stuns, but the offensive power was dealt with. Invocal was already dead at that point. Shadow wasn't in a position to capitalize on it. I mean, they're top 3 damage in the game right now.
Yeah.
But we see time and time again, if you just play the objective better, it doesn't matter if you have less damage, even if it is by a pretty wide margin here.
I love this.
And the Knights have seemingly figured out Bazaar, as bizarre of a map as it is. Early rotation coming through here. There's the scout. That's going to make sure the Renegades are very privy to everything that we see, and the Midnight, so they not only get the vision, but they eliminate the vision of the enemy team here, and the Enflame. They're throwing everything at the wall, but they haven't found any kills yet. Rakata is going to bring out the Crossfire in order to try to cover his escape, but that's not going to work out. Only one kill ends up coming from it. Dethroner surely will fall here pretty soon as well, but they've garnered 48% on the point now. Cutie just trying to delay as much as he can. And the Renegades, they throw everything at the wall. It sticks, and now they have a fast cap on the point, and they can maybe zone for point number 1.
I think that honestly might do it. Getting the kill onto the Eevee there as well, especially the respawn kill off G-Bunny, like that's going to close this point out, give them a payload. I just don't think Renegades win that fight if they don't have all of their ults, and I don't think they win this point if it's even. Like if this goes 2-2, even they could use all their ults, win that initial fight. There's still too much time, and I think Knights fight back into it almost harder because Renegades zone that way. And so it's a good fight back from them, but they literally threw everything at it, like you said.
The Renegades threw everything just the round prior. The overpower, seismic crash, all of that goes through just the round prior to get it through. The assert dominance is going to try to buy some space for Moonchopper. Does just that. Rakata is going to drop here just after cleaning up one onto Viral. That's an important trade. Triple kill, though, for Hero. We talk about how important the tank, the off tank is, and Hero showing us just that. 4 kills in this one for Hero. And just a slight pause in the Renegades on the front foot. And that's an important bounce back for the Renegades, because we talk about, you know, at the end of the day, and they vocalized this on Twitter a little bit after their games last week. At the end of the day, you know, you can say, oh, we're improving, we're looking a lot better. And they truly did. They looked really, really good last week, but you still lose 4-0. I mean, and that's a hard thing. It's like at some point, like you just kind of throw your hands up, and they're not necessarily. And I'll levy this question to you: is this more the Pittsburgh Knights playing just really good today, or have the Renegades maybe not played as well as they did last week?
I think this is the Knights playing really well. It feels like that Renegades are making the same strides, the same aggression that they were last week.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing is that they are kind of being met the same way. Like you could see it. They got up 3-1 several times against VP. They got up 3-1 several times against NIP. But the thing is that all of those teams understood how to play and fight back against that. They used the comeback mechanic in their favor. And right now, they're doing the same thing. Knights are the ones that are getting the lead, though, the initial lead early on.
Right.
And I feel like Renegades, again, they're a team that when we use momentum, like normally we're saying like map to map to map. Renegades are like fight to fight to fight. Like if they lose a fight, then they're just like, oh no, it's over. And then they win the next one. They're like, cool, we're still in this. Like it's just a mood swing when it feels like the way they play. And I think the Knights are just performing phenomenally well consistently right now. Like they're not doing anything crazy. Nobody's going 12-2. They're just doing it every single fight. And the only reason they have as many deaths as they do right now is really just because Renegades are not hesitating to throw out some of the ults, because admittedly every single one they have, except for the Dome Shield, charges pretty fast.
G-Bunny's going to add the opener to his belt in this one. Shadow goes back. The Inflame comes through for the Renegades right now, so you would hope that they end up winning the team fight on the back end of it. Rakata trades out 1 for 1. Dethroner, though, adds a second. Even with the Inflame, Payan's able to blink in, find the damage. Dethroner cleans it up. Moonchopper is going to go down very shortly once the shot from Payan connects, but buys a little bit of time for Shadow to come through here. 45 seconds left. And this is interesting. It's sort of a debate in that the payload here, would you say it's a hard payload push, or is it harder to defend on this roundabout?
I think this is a harder map to push on.
Yeah.
But I think you're going to hear different opinions all the time.
It is a debate.
From all of my experience and from what I've seen, this is probably one of the toughest corners to round. It's definitely the toughest corner in the map. But I think if you can keep kills rolling for you, like if you get a stagger right here, then it rolls all in your favor. It also depends on the ults the other team has and what they're willing to throw out. And Renegades, like they go for the Inflame there. They see if it sticks, and it doesn't. If it sticks, they probably come around this corner with a lot of momentum, but it gets stopped in its tracks, and now you can see the Knights are in a good defensive position.
Well, at the end of the day, as long as they right where they are right now, I mean, everyone from the Renegades is going to have to round that corner in front of them, whether it's from this alleyway or down the street. Truly, they know where they're going to be coming from, which I think makes it a bit of a tough map to push on. But finding the kills right now, Invocal Rakata. That's G-Bunny for Invocal, but Rakata comes up huge, stays alive in that one to clean up Shadow. Hero answers right on back The Knights are going to have the respawn advantage in this case. Viral just trying to stay alive and Flames around, but doesn't really have anyone to put it on. Overtime ticking away. If Viral goes down, I think that's going to do it. Certainly will in this case. And Pittsburgh Knights, they go up 3-1 yet again. Renegades have 4 ultimates going into this mid-fight. But Gore, it's looking bleak right now.
I don't think I get to say this enough, but Viral is such a good support player.
He is.
Like that, there was just a string of everything he did there on Furia that was so awesome. And there's so many things that you can bring that she does better than other supports. She does more damage than most of the supports that you'll see. She's going to be able to control a little bit more. Her utility is different because once we've switched over towards what we have where it's Cherish, it's going to be Restore Soul being your heal. You're not looking at a Solar Blessing and looking at this beam as a heal anymore. You're like, cool, I can set up kills. I can find stuns. Like, if you aggress on me, it almost hurts you more because I can stun you, dash, hit you with 600 damage, and then shoot you twice. Like, for someone like Ricotta, for someone like Payan, you can't just get a clean kill onto Viral every time and force an ult. Whereas if he's Maldamba, you get a Dread Serpent for that.
And I think here comes the Inflame. I'll finish that point here in just a minute after this fight makes its way through. On the point now, so they'll still have the fast cap, the Renegades will. The Knights are going to elect just to back off, but they're up on the high ground right now. A bit of a split presence here from the Renegades. Shadow just on this opposite side here. You have Moonchopper on the opposite side on the Ashe. Oh, the first kill comes out in favor of Ricotta, though. The Inflame burns away with no kills for the Renegades. Shadow's back in base. Payan's staying alive. This mobility is so important on Bazaar. And the Pittsburgh Knights, they only need 2 kills to reclaim the point.
And I think the biggest thing that you can see is Whirlwind was used in that fight, but the best pairing for Grover is going to be Inara. She just soaks up the healing. She's literally a healing sponge. And so you get that Whirlwind, you get a full reset for Dethroner, you still have just your Blossom heal coming through, and that's just so good for him to be able to stand there and fight on this point, when admittedly he should have died like 3 times during this fight.
Well, the overtime will start here, but they're definitely in range of getting a contest on it. Assert Dominance does not end up getting used there. Dethroner finds one onto Moonchopper. Hero finds one onto Payan. So it's a bit of a trade here, but Shadow could start to come up huge. Both of the damage dealers now down for the Pittsburgh Knights, and they're going to capitalize that are the Renegades. The health bars are low. The healing is gone. It looks like the Renegades have recaptured this point, and with fast cap, it could go in their favor.
I mean, that's exactly what they need. They're not too far behind. 85. This should touch to 100. Not even able to get the overtime, I don't think. Couldn't get his toes down before he almost got killed off. That ice block, whew. No matter what, that's cutting it close. But Payan does just barely skirt through, escape death. Well, at least for a little bit. His hero tracks him down, finds him, and Renegades once again on the push.
And that was an ever so important point fight for the Renegades. If they lost that one 4-1, things could have really gone in the opposite way. You talked about the stagger, Gore. Ricotta, G-Bunny, both dead right now. Only 3 members left alive, and the stagger is huge right now for the Renegades. Look at how deep they're able to push into the base of the Pittsburgh Knights. Of course, Payan's able to blink in, find some damage. He's in the ice block right now. And he actually ends up dying here. Doesn't have the blink out. So much burst. Perfectly timed on all of that burst from the Renegades. They're rounding this final corner. The Knights are going to have to step out of their base right now. So honestly, more uncomfortable, I would say, now are the defenders.
And this is why momentum is going to hurt you if you're defending. And it's just that because, yes, the base opens up over where the payload's going to be going in, but look how limited your vision is on the payload right now. Like, you can't see any of the Renegades from your base. You have to go through this alleyway. You have to go out onto the street. You have to go out and fight them. And so Renegades, they're in the best position you can be. They got past that certain pushing point, and they can come through. But with a couple of kills here, you can stabilize, especially with the timer on your side.
There's a minute and a half.
That's all they need.
Or there's a minute, rather. So the Renegades are A-okay. They did not need to do it right then. They say, all right, we only lose 1. No need to bite off more when we know we're already fighting at a disadvantage. The payload's close, but now, honestly, it shifts back to the defensive advantage.
So I think I'm going to answer the question you asked earlier. Again, I said from my experience, it's like it's a more difficult push, and I still think it is overall. But I think depending on how you come around that corner is going to determine that last half. Like, that's the hardest half of the push. But if you come around with kills, if you come around, well, maybe with an Inflame going, you have a lot of potential to be able to push it in. But you can see even just a little bit of a bump can throw you all the way back.
You pop the Inflame, you hope that's a go trigger for your team to win the fight, and it does not go that way whatsoever. 15 seconds left, but you got more than 15 seconds worth of walking to even get back to the payload here. The dismounts could come through, and it looks like they're going to, so In all likelihood, the Knights are going to find the defense. Remember, they're not going to win the game off of this. You have to win a point to end the game or push in a payload, and Pittsburgh Knights can do neither of those. But they have 4 ultimate score, only the Scout, only a couple more on their side. They didn't really burn anything on the defense there.
And that's the solid point. They did get rid of the Inflame on the other side, but more important to me than the Inflame, as big as that ult can be, is actually the Dome Shield. That was still at, I think, 35% at the end of the round, so it's probably going to be 37, 38 coming into this one. And it is specifically because a lot of these last-minute point recaptures from Renegades have been Dethroner still alive and healthy on the point, and you were just barely able to get rid of G-Bunny, you were just barely able to get rid of Payan, and you have to commit heavily to get him down. Actually, at 53% there for Hero. So having that, I think, is going to help in this frontline fight. But like you said, 4 out of 5 here for the Knights, and I don't think they're going to hesitate to use any of them.
No, and you would hope not. I mean, they end the game here with a win. None being popped just as of yet, and this is where the Renegades really need to buy some poke, and instead all they buy is 1 ticket back to base for Invocal here. Here's the seismic crash, goes right into Hero Ball, but he's able to dance around. It does not end up getting stunned up, but he has to get off of the point. G-Bunny with another one on the Moonchopper. The Pittsburgh Knights have the only kills in this initial engage, and they're on the point fighting outwards. Gore, they only used Whirlwind, they only used Seismic Crash. Now they use the Overpower, but that could be enough to stagger out the Renegades.
I mean, we've seen what they can do with a little bit of a lead, but admittedly, Renegades still have a form of comeback mechanic in their favor. And so if things just don't go their way, then I think everything's going to come up Knights, but they have to just find a pick right here. Unfortunately, they are not anywhere close to. Moonchopper not even going to be able to get in. He gets body blocked from the dash.
Wow, beautiful body blocking coming in there. Rakata 1, Payan 1, make it almost 2 now. Make it 2 finally for the Eevee in this case. That's all she wrote. The Knights are going to lock up another one here. They're going to go up 2-0 in this set. Renegades, they got to find an answer.
And you know, looking back on it, Bazaar is a very specific map. And this is one of the only times I think I can say this. There are a few maps, like I think Bright Marsh Inara is going to be better than Barrack. I think Bazaar, I can 100% say that Inara is stronger just because of the way she controls it, and specifically because Barrack can't hide his turrets the way he does on like Ascension Peak, which is where this point fight's most compared to.
That's tough.
And that, I think, is more telling than anything. Again, not only quiet afterward, but head in hands, upset with themselves. Like, Renegades are feeling the losses, and they're feeling them rough.
And that was sort of the point I was making earlier, is that, like, regardless of how well you play, you come up with a loss. You can only take so much away from a loss, right? I mean, there's a lot to learn. There's a lot to really pull back. But if you end up losing regardless at the end of the day, time after time, that's a lot to bounce back from. Pittsburgh Knights find win number 2. Let's hear what the desk is thinking.
Well, if you run, you'll catch me. That's how the song goes. But I don't know if that's going to be the case here for the Pittsburgh Knights. Renegades here, you know, looked a little better than game number 1, but still ultimately just looked lost.
Yeah, Bazaar is definitely, I learned a lot about it watching that one. You've got 3 people breaking 6 figures on the damage charts for this squad of the Renegades. Only one to do it on the Knights, but the Knights are, at the end of the day, still the guys that walk away with it. Objective control, you're seeing a lot of that in the way of Dethroner, but nobody really else, especially when you look at Hero across the way. He had so much objective time, but it was just winning those fights. That was what was so difficult. I think Rakata did a really good job. Like we mentioned, not really feeling a lot of that pressure from the Maeve. Marking people up and setting up Payan is a very potent combo, especially with Genos being banned out so much.
Yeah.
Tyra is really a lot of what reliable damage amp is left in the pool.
And Payan's ability here to kind of float around the composition, get behind them, go ahead and just provide the damage. That was a big deal. Earlier, I think it was last game, we were talking about how important it was for the off tanks to create room for the DPS players. Eevee operates in a different world where she creates her own room, and all of a sudden it just creates this really I'm going to use the phrase again, uncomfortable dynamic for the enemy team.
She is the absolute paragon of chaos and distraction value, and a lot of times I've really taken it upon myself as an Eevee guy. She might be a little negative, might not have a lot of damage, but if you're doing a good job turning heads and making people uncomfortable, I definitely give you a lot of credit for doing that. But Payan did everything on the checklist that game.
Yep. He was able to do both, be chaotic, get behind the enemy line, turn the players around, and still shoot them in the brain. Yeah. I mean, if you can do all of those things, because it's very funny because Paladin's very deep game, a lot of things going on, but you've got to be looking at the point, looking at the team fight, and if Eevee goes behind you, you literally have to turn around.
Yeah.
And such a simple concept winds up with such an emphatic win here for Pittsburgh Knights. We look at game number 1, we look at game number 2, and the thing that keeps these things so similar is just how different the compositions were from the standard, the meta, the norm. Pittsburgh Knights are playing their own game, and I don't care if it's Paladins or badminton. You are at your best when you're playing your own game.
Definitely. We've heard that statement sort of echoed a lot from a lot of different teams at different points in the phase as well. It always kind of, you come full circle back to that point of like, we kind of just got to focus on us.
Yes.
There's so much that's viable right now that it's impossible to make people completely uncomfortable, especially with how good most of these teams are. One thing that I do want to point out is that silver lining from the first set, that though Space Station got kind of reamed in those first 2 games,
right,
there was still somebody talking, and it was a very clear, like, this is what is going wrong. We need to fix this and make that adjustment. The Renegades, when they lose, man, they're just, they sit there and like just kind of stare at the scoreboards, and nobody's really saying anything.
That's the really rough part, because you want to be able to have those conversations. Nothing gets fixed unless you're able to address it, and Renegades, they have to be able to do that. You can't just continue to lose and lose, and if it's 2-1 and you wind up losing a game because your support player failed and everyone knows it, you don't need to point at them and be like, you're the reason.
Yeah.
But when you're losing 2 games in a row, you've got to conversate. You've got to figure it out. I'm fine with teams, like I said, going into game 4, game 5, just going, shut up about it. Let's just play.
Yeah.
That's not this scenario. I need to see more talking.
Fish Market here will be the map selection, and at game 3, that's when we move into losers pick. So you pick based on seedings and coin flips and all that in the first 2. At this point, it's the Renegades pick, and whoever loses that game prior will choose the next map, so on and so forth, until we've crowned our winner. And if the Knights are not broke, don't fix it type of scenario for them. And I want to bring back to what we talked about with Powtech. Where's that cheese? I haven't really seen anything too smelly from them.
Which is, I like that, because that is break glass in case of emergency. That glass is chilling. Yeah. Everybody's, because that's what happens. You play game in a best of 7 series. You have so many games here. You play game number 1 kind of as basic as you can. You see what you can get away with without providing any information to what you guys have practiced. No information is a big deal. MSI on the horizon. Knights, they're not going. Let's be honest. But their ability to just continue playing for the future, I think, is respectable here.
Absolutely. You got to be forward-facing. We broke it down, and you and I specifically, in those format videos for the World Championship. This is the first time we're doing, non-resetting records. This
Love it, by
is
the way.
all going to hurt you. You have to just be focused on picking it up as soon as possible, because getting out in front, like NIP have done, puts them in a very comfortable position for the rest of the year.
That said, you look at teams like Knights
the
and
hood's up.
Renegades. Oh,
It's over.
Is that it?
I've never seen this before. This might be Shadow's final form.
Mask on, hood up. Let's see how it goes.
He's got Eevee too.
Yeah.
Normally a hat guy, but today it's the hood.
He kind of looks like those little guys from Despicable Me.
Illumination!
It's so fluffy! Yeah, that little guy.
The mignons. The filet mignons.
Ooh, I like that one. Barrack and Eevee. Who do you pair up with Barrack and Eevee? We've seen a number of strong tanks go by. Eevee does her own. See, that's the thing. When you're looking at other characters, or how do you enable these champions? Eevee don't need no help. She's just out there in her own world, which is why I like the Furia Maeve combo. I think that they can exist in their own island.
Well, the answer I was going to give you was damage amp, and traditionally that's been Genos, but he's been getting pretty much permabanned.
Yeah.
Furia coming back into the meta, she has damage amp on her ultimate. Like I said, one of the most confirmable ways to get damage amp nowadays is actually Tyra, and the Renegades, I think Invocal can run the Tyra here. They know that the Knights aren't going to be looking for it, because Ricotta plays a ton of Cassie and Leon. He's going to play Leon in this instance. That's a character that we don't see too much of. Picking this double flanker, like we talked about earlier, I think you asked the question of, when are we going to see Leon, or why don't we see her as much?
Right.
You not only need to have a player that's comfortable with the character, like a Hecate, like a Rukata, but what you also need is a good matchup, whether that be shooting a Drogos out of the sky or dealing with a lot of high mobility flankers. Knights have both. Rukata is an insane, one of the best probably mechanical players in the league, and he's also got some good matchups to fight into.
I like this as well. Knights, this is still kind of in the middle, right, as far as norm is concerned, but a little bit more flavorful. They've got the regular chicken out here with just a little bit of their own flavoring, and that's what Knights are doing here. And I think win or lose, the next draft from Knights is going to be real spicy.
This is the Renegades breaking that class, though. The triple DPS, bringing this out. Ideally, they would have Janos as the support for this composition, but they're working with what they got.
You think this is big enough to win?
I think so. I like this change of pace. This is high-octane offense from the Renegades.
Game 4, let's go.
Game 4 it is. Fish Market, notably. It is, and the Renegades, they're at the gas pump right now. They're not going for that unleaded. They're going for that far right option. They'll pay an extra $1 or $2 in order to get the high octane in their gas tank right now, and that's exactly what they're going to look for. The moment that Inflame is up, Shadow, Invocal, Moonchopper, notably the one playing the Shaolin, Hero still on the barrack. Didn't Moonchopper used to play a little DPS?
Yeah, he was the DPS. If you had to give anyone in this game, anyone on Renegade, EV other than Shadow, it would be Moonchopper. Moonchopper was one of the best EVs last year that was willing to play it, and that was online. So being able to come through, granted he's not going to be playing it this time around, I am not surprised to see him being the one flexing. A very similar like Diggy Dog on NIP. A DPS player made into an off-tank, still has the DPS in him, and is still ready to pull it out.
And he's probably chomping at the bit at the
he's
opportunity
so ready to go.
to play a little DPS. He says, I off-tank for you guys. I have to take the brunt of the damage. Now I get to sit back and hopefully do the most damage. It's at the Renegades win condition, and this one is really just blasting through the Knights before they have a chance to react.
Honestly, and they have the kind of composition to do it. Eevee can corral people, Maeve can corral people, double flank is going to be good here, and then Shaolin is going to be the guy that last hit him, right? And all I can think of after this entire conversation is, some good shots from Pan. Forget what I was going to say. Keep this guy on Cassie. He's keeping it clean.
Yeah, wow. 3-0 miss shots there. Adds a second even onto Shadow. Yeah, they're at 90% right now. They've just let Hero chill on the point right now. 96%. So even if the Knights are able to get onto the point after cleaning up Hero here, 99%. They get themselves all the way to the top. Well played by Hero there. He realizes, all right, we lost 1, we lost 2, good shots coming in. I'm going to mitigate as much point percentage as possible, and now the Knights, they have 0 room for error. Their front lines go down even once. The Renegades are going to capture point number 1 here. Rukata notably getting back onto the Leon here, falling in and out of favor for some players. Watch out, Rukata. He gets the kill onto Shadow, but Hero, the shots are good from the barrack. Dethroner's left alive here, and now it's getting uncomfortable for the Renegades. 93%, and the advantage is now essentially negligible. He gets the touch, does not get the healing from that Pyre Strike, though. The stun came through onto Dethroner. Payan and G-Bunny each have a kill in this one, so now fighting an uphill battle are the Renegades. That's a good heat haze, keeps him out of vision of Dethroner, and just lengthens the amount of time. The overpower could seal this one up, though, Gore.
And the one thing I love, they get the overpower, they get 2 kills, but the way Dethroner approaches that, where he's like, I can't see the Shaolin, but I know he's got to stand on the point, and I've got AoE shots. I'm just going to shoot at the ground, and you're going to take damage. Yeah, it might not be the full 400, but as long as I'm getting some damage, it'll pop up a damage number, and then he can start to track him. Where is he? And of course, it just kind of forced Moonchopper to be uncomfortable. And it showcases one of the biggest things, I think, about Fish Market. Renegades have a Fish Market draft. I think this is a map or a draft that can win this map easily, but at the same time, double frontline versus single frontline. When Hero dies, there's not really anyone to take his place. No one can go in and replace him on that point. I
really liked the Dread Serpent just now from Cuss Cutie as well. He saw the Inflame come out on the side of Renegades and knew that that's where they're going to look to go aggressive. I'm going to just throw a giant AoE Fear right in the point where the Renegades are going to try to bust through. Basically traded out ult for ult here. Shadow and Vocal start off a little bit of a feeding frenzy here for the Renegades. One more added now by Viral. Everyone getting involved for the Renegades, but still a minute and a half left. The saying is always, you go to Fish Market to lose. I would say Envy have kind of proven that not as true as a blanket. Envy love Fish Market. But
make us champions every day.
Yeah, right. Yeah, why not? Hero.
That's a good tagline for him.
Make us champions every day.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like for Fish Market, like if Fish Market was a cereal and Envy was trying to sell it, that would be like they're great for Envy.
Right.
Except it'd probably be catchier.
That's their tagline. That's their tagline for this map. Renegades now deep in the base of the Knights. Remember, they're not attacking here. They're playing defense. But as an offensive defense as you can get, really, in this case, if this holds for much longer, it's going to be tough for the Knights to get back. This is well played by the Renegades because they only had a little bit of a slight advantage. And they're able to convert that into about as deep of a pressure as you can get onto the side of the Knights. With only 30 seconds left, Payan finds one onto Hero, so their only tank is now gone. They're going to have to give just a little bit of mileage here. Are the Renegades backing off, poking away some damage onto Dethroner. But if they're able to delay this just enough, could make this near impossible for the Knights to get through.
Shadow forced to fall back a little bit. With Moonchopper falling right there, we'll give the Knights a little bit more room, but halfway through on Fish Market with 10 seconds to go, you can do it in overtime, but
That's true.
You literally have an uphill then downhill battle for the last half of this push. It's very difficult.
Ricotta
and you can
falls.
see right there, Maeve can go around, get behind you, and so can Eevee, and because
That's
of
it.
that, Invokal's in a prime position to pick off some Knights.
And that's exactly what he does. Double for the Maeve. Dethroner could escape. Oh, one more. Oh, he does. Invokal now has 3. Oh,
There
4. I mean, essentially meaningless kills, but still a quadra kill for that defense there. They really only needed the first 2 to really confirm it. That's an important answer, I think, on Fish Market especially. If you lose, they convert. This is a map almost unlike many others where things can really get out of control. Frog Isle may be sort of similar to that. But a good answer back here from the Renegades. Did you see anything on this initial mid-fight that the Renegades didn't do with their composition that they maybe need to?
Honestly, this is going to sound like it's really on the nose, but it's get kills. Like, that's just the one thing they didn't do, that if they get a single kill, like, so Pan gets a couple kills there. If instead that's Invokal or Shadow or Moonchopper, Renegades win that first point fight. Hero got 99%. He did his job.
Yeah,
it
true.
came down to what are your 3 DPS doing, and they were distracted. They were doing their job. They were dealing damage, but they didn't close out any of the kills. And I think that'll make the big difference right here. Because already, look, they're sitting on the point. 18%, 21%. They've got the control.
Now look to do a little bit more of the same. Tied up 1-1 here. Renegades really needing an answer back. It won't end here if the Knights win. And Flame is kind of that go button that we always like to talk about, but still Pan comes up big in the initial engagement here. All kills coming up blue. G-Bunny on this con are going to find all the kills they need. And yet again, Renegades get steamrolled, but they do not have nearly as much percentage as they did last time around.
And, you know, looking at that, I don't like the way Hero plays that fight. I think that is one of those moments. You notice a couple of deaths. I understand where the rotation probably started was a little earlier than that, but 4 members were dead, and he had left the point. If he sits on the point, they're sitting at like 60, 70%, which might not make a huge difference if they can't get back to the objective. But if you get back, even if Knights get to 99, that's less time you have to spend holding them off.
That's tough. I mean, 90% now. It looks like they're going to be able to get in and get the blink on the Eevee. Moonchopper drops Dethroner, but Hero gets traded out as well. That's the only frontline presence the Renegades have, so they're not really going to be able to stand on this point. They just have to rely on the mobility to get in and get a touch. But look how grouped the Knights are. They did not want to let anyone get in there. Yet again, they capture another point. So 2-1 here. Goes PK. The Renegades have to find another big defense because the point fights, they have not been in their favor.
And it's a lot of the same issue, right? Where it is just going down that you have triple DPS and just somehow, some reason, they're not finding their kills. And, well, the reason is named G-Bunny. G-Bunny's getting aggressive into him. He doesn't mind using his overpower on a DPS player. He doesn't mind getting in your face and causing you to kill. He's con. He wants to rush you down. And that's the thing. Knights don't have the point tank. Hero is the point tank. He's the only one really playing the quote-unquote point tank for the game. But Knights have drafted in a way that is, we're going to kill your DPS.
Yeah.
So even if you stand on the point for 99%, you don't have any backup if you're Hero.
I mean, maybe I'm setting you up here, so let me apologize in advance. But I'm already,
it's okay.
I'm scratching my head here because what the Renegade, that was the cleanest sweep of a team fight I've seen this entire set from the Renegades. Is the payload being 15 feet to the right really enough of a positional difference that allowed the Renegades to win that fight that hasn't allowed them to win the point fight?
I think so. The other thing, well, one that's making this one go their way is they just dropped 2 ults for a defense,
Yeah.
which I would say is way early. Of course, with the timer, they'll be able to charge those two back up, but it's that area where it is kind of awkward to fight over there. You don't have as much maneuverability, I think, on that side of the map, and because of that, it's kind of obvious. Like, you know where the Ashe is going to be. You know where Khan is going to be, and so if you're Eevee, if you're Maeve, it's a little easier to find like some of those picks and force them into an uncomfortable position. But the problem is if you can only win in that spot at that moment, what are you going to do when the payload gets up here? What are you going to do on the point fight? Like, that's where they're falling short.
Well, it's a delicate dance. I mean, it's definitely a map where seemingly, I mean, fighting in one spot versus another, there's a huge difference to the way it can go. Whether you're fighting on that point, so much area in the middle to fight down into, whether you're fighting 5 feet to the right, now only half of that high ground really matters. I mean, I can see how maybe just one spot or another. Also, the Renegades may be more willing to burn ultimates immediately after the point fight, whereas the Knights are maybe trying to charge them up. So lots of little intricate things could be going one way or another. But you see these moments of brilliance from the Renegades, that last one being one of them, where they're almost able to win a team fight, and they really do. That's a good Ice Storm, but still, you see here, Payan's able to withstand the damage, drop Moonchopper, Hero goes down as well. Now you have a healer and 2 flanks trying to stop this one from going in. Overtime notably is on the board here. So the Renegades just need to find a couple of picks. They only really have one chance left at it. Viral goes down. Certainly that's going to do it. Shadow may be able to blink in. Moonchopper pops the ultimate, but triple kill from the Leon. That's going to see to it that Pittsburgh Knights maybe get back on the board here.
I mean, this shield is going to be able to do a little bit in terms of withstanding the damage, but I do not see Hero, and neither does the game living too long to be able to hold on to it. He holds on to what he can. But, I mean, there's an onslaught of damage coming down, and I think partially it's the way the Knights drafted. And this is the big thing. The last few weeks, we've been pointing out how good the drafts are from the Knights. This is the first time I feel like they're playing their draft at the level it deserves to be played, right? Like, where it's like this is like the drafts have been gold stars. Right. And then the play has been like 3 out of 5. Now they're playing 5 out of 5 on both ends, and this is the big difference it can make. And I mean, slash line wise, you look, most of it's going to be Payan. Damage is all in favor of the Renegades right now. But the thing is that Payan and Rakata are picking up the kills when they matter, whereas Shadow, Invocal, Viral, Hero, Moonchopper, all of them, they're fragging out for the first 30 seconds of a defense. I think that's only the time.
I feel like the Knights also have so much less damage that they could possibly deal. They have so many more squishy targets on the opposite side. So you 100 to 0, say, an Eevee, that's going to net you so much less damage than, you know, an Ashe or a Khan on the opposite side. But yeah, again here, the Knights open up with a big kill onto Hero, so only the damage dealers and the healer. One more time now for the Renegades. They need to do it now, and finally, it seems like they finally tilted something in their favor. Invocal's staying alive, but there's too many right in his face right there. It's a healer, a Cassie, and a Leon. They're going to get aggressive here. Notably, nobody on the point, though. But the Renegades are so caught out, so deep right now, that once the respawns come through, which they have now, the Knights are finally able to get onto the point. And the Renegades, they have a full court press to break.
I mean, of all the times to send Hero to just go sit on the point and use point capture, it would be when you have comeback mechanic. Yeah, like now that you're down 3-1, let him sit there. You'd be at 80% if he was doing what he had done the last couple of rounds. But he gets killed off almost immediately. The control is heavily in favor of the Knights. And unless some really insane kills come out from Shadow right here, I don't know if they're going to scoop it back.
Well, they do have a 3v4 advantage going into this one. Hero now dancing on the point, and they get a kill. So they've seemingly stabilized right now. The first retake we've seen, Shadow adds another one onto the healer. Certainly is going to fall as Dethroner. And now Renegades, I don't want to speak too soon, but it looks like they're going to be able to capture their first point of this game. Maybe even of the set. Have they captured a single mid-fight, or have they only really gotten defenses?
I think only defenses.
No, that's right.
I'd have to look back.
They had the one on Bazaar where they were pushing, almost pushed it in. So they've at least had a point cap. And Gordon, despite how one-sided this game has been up to this point, if the Renegades push this one through, we're tied at 3.
I mean, this is not enough, I think, from them. Actually, this fight is what's most important to me. Every time that the Knights have had their payload in this position, Renegades have pushed them into their base. I want to see if Renegades, with their payload in this position, can push the Knights into the base. It's going to be control right now. If G-Bunny doesn't get that kill, that's so big for them. That can keep them rolling. But again, like you said, this can only tie it up 3-3.
Yep.
It's a good showcase.
It is.
But you're going to have to do this all over again with no comeback mechanic next round. And that, that's a scary thought.
This is massive here. I mean, I talked about how much I love a 2-1. A 2-0 is important as well. 3-0, so different from 2-1 in this case. I mean, that is a massive swing. Renegades desperately need this one to go in. I don't know if they'll be able to win 2 more point fights. They could tie it up on a defense next time. Oh, wait, no, they can't, because if the Knights capture it, they're going to win. Dethroner dropping Shadow right off the bat. That's such an aerial advantage that's now off the board for the Renegades.
Yep.
They're going to get the full team sweep here unless Viral's able to dance backwards. It's looking like he's not going to be able to. He's going to just reset himself. And this is such a punishing map to get team wiped on. They're not able to get the full press in, the Knights are. But that's so hard to break through. There is one. Who is that? No, it's Invocal just dancing around in the base. I noticed the little silhouette just dancing around. He's going to get pincered here. He has to watch out from behind. You know, if he's able to survive this, okay, never mind. I was going to say, a team fight could break out and you could separate the rest of the Knights. That doesn't happen in an interesting stagger. Was he really just maybe banking on not being noticed?
I think if he was, he played it poorly to not get noticed. Like, I think in that scenario, if your goal is wait for your team to come back and then kind of surprise from behind, would be don't use any of your abilities, just sit back, don't shoot at anyone, hang out behind one of these trees, don't let anyone look at you. But he was making a lot of noise back there, and that's what kind of drew the attention of the Knights.
You got to watch out for the Inflame, especially with triple DPS. This is when they're going to want to get aggressive, but all that's coming out right now is chunk damage. They have to find kills because by the time this wears out, the advantage goes back to Knights who have 5 ultimates. You're trying not to burn as much as possible. Shadow's going to get some inherent healing off around the side. The Blink's giving him a little bit of extra healing as well. Dethroner going down could be big right now for the Renegades. The damage has to be good from Shadow, but instead it's Pan who wins that 1v1. But the kills are still in the advantage of the Renegades. Oh, that's a great Dread Serpent. Sends Invocal running. And it looks like the Knights are going to be able to hold on defense.
I mean, honestly, if you only use one, use the one that's going to separate them, lock them down, and keep yourself ahead. They still need this kill, though. Hero is dancing around perfectly. He knows how to tango, and he is using this payload, using his resets to his advantage. It's not enough for anyone to get back, but it does showcase, again, how solid Hero has been on this barrack, how solid he is playing. And I think it does come down to what we've kind of been missing, and at least in my eyes, from Renegades, which is the rest of the play, where the rest of the team is. Like, Shadow has been showing up these last couple of rounds, that last round specifically, but I haven't seen him do the typical Shadow plays until then. I need this to happen at the beginning of the round, right? This needs to start this next round.
They will have half fast cap, so every other tick will give you 4. I mean, the story's been the same the entire game. Top 4 damage goes the way of the Renegades. But I'd love to see just a quick look at objective time going into this final fight to see, you know, the way it's played out. I would imagine Hero, he is leading in that. But look at that. Cuss Cutie on the Damba. He's letting the rest of the Knights get aggressive while he hangs back and does some healing. That's the way it's worked out here. An initial aggressive push here from the Renegades. This could be exactly what they need to get the Pittsburgh Knights off balance. Enlightenment comes through, doesn't find a kill just as of yet. Oh, beautiful assert dominance. Renegades are caught just so far out of position. G-Bunny now has 2. Viral goes down. The only 1 kill for the Renegades going the way of Shadow. And that's going to be another team fight sweep. That was a high-value assert dominance from Dethroner.
And you were just highlighting it, but this is what Cuss has been doing. This has been his view the entire game, and it's like the perfect spot for a support. Everyone can just kind of peek out, let him heal them, and then they can come back. That's going to be 54 and up to 60, 70 before any of the Renegades get back and have anything to say about it.
Wow.
Jeez. More than double.
Bye-bye,
just
Hero.
The Maldamba.
Oh my, he used his dash to get back onto the map through the assert dominance, but is he able to stay alive? That's the question. It could be enough. Shadow comes back and gets through here. Hero is still alive. What a play on his part. A triple kill for the Eevee. Pan and Dethroner level things out just a little bit, but Renegades have slowed down the Knights' offensive push. He needs to find this kill. He does just that. Overtime's going to expire, and the Renegades are going to be the ones to answer back. You have Midnight. That's the only ultimate on the board. The Renegades have to strike now, otherwise the Knights, they're going to take this game.
But that was such a monumental clash. Both of these teams essentially coming in at the same fight, and then G-Bunny being able to get a kill onto Invocal very early on, going to be able to come through. At least has a little bit of pressure, and that's what you need. 2 kills right there opens that door to come in, but Hero's still on the point.
He is. Shadow has to go big here, though. He needs to find this kill onto Rakata. Viral goes down. The healing's all gone. The only frontliner is Hero. He's dashing around. The resets are going to do him good, but the overtime's going to start. Here's the Midnight, though. Is he able to dash in and get a touch? The vision is gone. I don't think he's going to be able to do it. Oh, he does get the overtime touch, but it looks like the Knights are going to be able to seal it up. Nobody else is in range. That's the closest game we've had so far, but it's still the Knights with the win. They are up 3-0 in this set.
And it's a lot of solid control overall. And there again, you see head and hands. But the thing I think that was important about that map, and the thing that was awesome about that, was how many performances you could see. And Vocal had a lot of good kills. Shadow had a lot of good moments. It just feels like they started a little late. And the problem with triple DPS is as time goes on, they admittedly can get stronger, but it was Ash Khan. Like, they were just bullying them constantly. They were playing, DPS with the health of a tank.
Right. So moments of brilliance from the Renegades, but haven't been able to put it together yet into a win. They need a reverse sweep for the first time in this split in the PPL in order to win this one. Let's send it back to the desk.
Great stuff there coming out from the Pittsburgh Knights, and the Renegades just couldn't hang on this time. And and sometimes you get mad at the casters because they steal your stuff. I really was just going to highlight the off tanks, but I also did that. So I guess I got nothing. No, fantastic job here coming out from Ash. Really, really, really love the stuff that Dethroner and G Bunny were able to do here.
And part of this is, look at that. Look at those healing numbers. That's something you have
absurd,
to talk
actually.
about. 124,000 above viral was Cuss Cutie. Part of this is like having more big, beefy frontliners, but this is not Inara having the innate healing amp. This is not an overabundance of Rejuvenate. You can see Dethroner with Rejuve 1, Rejuve 2 for G Bunny. That's not the excuse for 124,000 extra healing. That's just a crazy differential, and that is absolutely something that's going to make a wild amount of difference.
And that is much less, so the conversation is always, well, did player A play poorly or did player B just play that well? Cuss really just did it. That's really all it is that amount of healing on Maldamba. As you said, the target's a little bit more forgiving because of the front lines, but even still, really good stuff coming out from the healer to enable the heals on the front line to enable this stuff out of Ricotta.
And this is what we were talking about. Look at how easy these fights are made for him. A lot of times there's one or two front lines in front of him, in between him and his target. Not necessarily here. This is more of a cleanup and a reset. But despite the nerfs to Leon, as long as you have that map control, that space, does it matter who's pulling the trigger? Ricotta, like we said, very mechanically good at these hit scan characters. He's going to jump at the chance to get to play one because it is very limited. In terms of pure hit scan, what people are playing, you're seeing some Tyra, a little bit of Vivian, maybe some of this Leon, but outside of that, there's not too much in the way of hit scan, so that's why Ricotta, he gets the chance and he runs with it.
We're not really seeing those other options, Victor and Droxus. Boy, it's been a while. He's the logo for the league. Somebody play
come on,
somebody play the pistol guy.
We need Andro buffs. It's time.
Man, is it really just power crit? Are the other characters more strong?
A lot of what Andro relied on for so long was mobility, and there was a pretty big pass that we took some mobility out.
Yeah.
Andro did have a new way to kind of get in, get out, very reliable, high burst damage, but then it was sort of killing the burst meta. That was the next thing, and Andro has just been in the wrong place at the wrong time, I think, with these blanket nerfs, and that's why he's kind of fallen out of favor.
The face of Paladins, not the gameplay, unfortunately. Dethroner, great job last time around. Really like watching this guy when he's able to play well. I think that Pittsburgh Knights, again, their DPS are the less consistent players. It's the front line and the support that do really, really hard work, and that enables that DPS. So when you see the front line and the support playing well, that opens the door for Pittsburgh Knights to start to win.
There was a critical moment, big ultimate from Dethroner. The Assert Dominance stunned out multiple people under a dome shield. That was probably the best moment, I think, from him from that game, because that was a very critical mid-fight for the Knights to win, to make sure that they stayed in control of that game. That was the closest the Renegades have come, but it's a 3-0 deficit and a big mountain to climb. I saw Powtek smiling there, so the coach still feeling good. Maybe some jokes starting to kind of bring that room back to life, but there's not a lot of energy left in that booth.
That's the job. Powtek better be smiling.
Yeah.
Because the second the coach starts to look like the players did there, that's really where when the issue arises. So Powtek, very important. This is the arguably harder part of the coaching job, right? Like, you can go get a spreadsheet, learn your X's and O's, and do the math. That's all well and good. But can you get your team out of the trenches? Can you get your team to want to talk to each other after losing 3 in a row?
Right.
That's the hard part. And so
definitely,
we'll see if Powtek can get behind his team and cheer them on to a victory here. Standard bans so far. Eevee banned out as the Torv and the Turtle have gone to the wayside as well. Knights, one more ban going their way, and then Renegades will have the first pick.
Proven to be so effective. Knights have a chance here. Atlas or Genos is going to be open, so they have to decide. They could go the alternative route, ban something like Cassie, something that's just like A+ kind of blech, and then that way they keep enough things open to make sure that they get a power pick as well. They don't opt for that route. They get rid of Atlas, and Renegades will have the chance to first pick Genos.
We'll see if that's going to be the case or if they'll go the Khan first selection that we've seen so many times. It looks like it will be big guy, little head one more time.
Big guy. I love it.
He's got a little head.
He certainly does.
He's a big guy.
He's a lot of armor and not a lot of brain.
Do you think he's a tiny guy in a big suit and the head is normal size for his body?
I think he's a pretty bulky fella. He's a unit. That's for sure.
What doesn't kill me?
Ash and Maeve, quite the opposite. Very small characters here, but big impact. Ash has been the front and center choice here for Knights, and the Maeve has quickly risen to becoming a top-tier pick. I mean, it feels like just a couple of months ago we didn't see her at all, slowly creeping into the meta, and now we're here in our second match of 3. Match 1, match 2, we've seen her a number of times.
Grandpa G Bunny here, feeling good.
Grandpa Bunny?
Yeah, he gets to have his pick locked in. Swap to Barrack for the Renegades. I think that's a wise call. Making sure Dethroner can't be too comfortable. If they could have grabbed Barrack, Ash, that would have been a great little lineup for the Knights. Maeve, pretty critical on Frozen Guard for a couple of reasons. Very long lines of sight on this map. Midnight closes them all off, blinds your opponents for up to 4 seconds, depending on what level of resilience you're running, as well as Maeve's daggers have no fall-off, so it's really just on that player. If you can hit him from far away, it's going to be the same as if you were barrel stuffing that player, and that's a really big look for Maeve, as Cat Burglar, the popular talent, is completely just an auto-attack stim. You just hit harder for the next 4 knives you throw after you activate Prowl.
That's one of the big things that I like about the Cassie is you talked about how Maeve is going to shut off a lot of those long lines of sight. That's only while you've got that ability active. When the lights are on, Cassie's going to be able to abuse those long lines of sight. And so Knights have kind of an answer for, when Maeve's doing her thing versus when she's not. So a real nice look there for Knights. Renegades trying to finish off their draft here. The return to the Leon one more time.
So they've got a double damage amp brewing here between Luminary marks from Genos as well as the Hunting Party marks from Tyra. However, where I'm a little bit concerned is just their ability to capitalize on it. Normally, like this would, instead of Leon, if you pair something like an Eevee or like a Maeve, something that can't, and granted both are taken or banned right now, so it's part of the problem, way of the road, if you will. You don't have anything to dive on that target that's marked. You don't have any way, like you mark them and they just probably hide.
Do it.
Do it for Dot.
Do it.
Hashtag do it for Dot. This would be, oh my God.
The Knights right here. Lock the Grok, baby. Oh, cuss. Oh, no. And I know.
Oh, and that's tough. I'm sorry you had to go through that.
Listen. Cuss did that on purpose.
He very well, I would not put it past him.
He absolutely did. I mean, that is absolutely Cuss going, I know after that's on the desk. I'm going to pick Grok. Just kidding. No lock the Grok today. Instead, we get the Furia here.
You're right. That's got to be intentional. There's just no way there's not.
I'm gonna go make faces through the window. Game 4. We'll see if the Knights can take the sweep.
Well, the Renegades, they need to answer back. You know why, Gore? Because if they don't, they're done for the day.
The package is ready to be delivered, and if they don't, it's going to the post office. They got to pick it up tomorrow.
Despite having the door knocked on 6 or 7 times, which they don't do. They don't even ring the doorbell. They just take it straight. They just take it straight in there.
They look at it and they go,
wait, they got jerseys? That might be my favorite intro was viral, looking down at the jerseys like, wait, we got jerseys. That's the funniest one I maybe have seen so far. Frozen Guard it is. Renegades, they looked good on this map against NIP. Unfortunately, it was their final stand, per se, against NIP last week. If they bring a similar performance, I think it's going to be enough to take the win here today. They've drafted well.
Yeah.
They have a good team composition going into it. The Maeve sort of is where my eyes go because, honestly, regardless of who's been playing it, it's either fallen flat on its face or made a huge impact in the game. There's not too much in between.
True. And I think right now Renegades have the tools in their toolbox, right?
Yep.
It is just how well can you handle the Maeve, and how much pressure do you put on her versus the Cassie? Because I think Cassie's going to be big, but she's only big if you let her get big, right? Tyra, Leon, very similar, but they have a lot of potential to burn people down, and that mark is potentially the end of the Maeve every single time.
Yeah, I mean, regardless of who it is, could be a frontliner, could be a backliner, regardless, that mark melts you away so heavily. The Knights found themselves on the point, but a couple kills, Invocal and Shadow each adding one into the mix here. Renegades back on the point, fighting for the zone.
Doing whatever they can. Biggest kill I think the Renegades have ever gotten was a first blood onto G-Bunny.
Yes.
Like, that is one of the biggest things you can do against the Knights. It's one of the strongest ways to stop them. Also, notably, G-Bunny not on Khan this time around, who has been first pick, I think, every single game today.
So impactful, you're right.
And Renegades, I think, actually opting for second pick last map might have shot themselves in the foot, because right now, they're looking really good with it.
The young Chopper, he's the one on the Khan this time around, and he finds another one onto Ricotta. So that's the flank that's now down. A lot more direct damage is going to be the threat here. All the kills coming up blue. Dethroner down 93% now for the Renegades. He needs to stay alive here. They do have the advantage, but staying alive would be such a huge advantage. He has two members looking at him, not looking at the point right now. And Shadow, that allows Shadow to come through. They're fighting from the point, and look at this. I'm just going to chill in the corner with my shield up. My teammates are going to come through and get the kills. This is the Renegades we saw last week. Point number one over to blue.
And this is going to be big. If they can carry this, I mean, there were a lot of times last week where Renegades were able to almost push against NIP. And almost is the only key word I think that comes through. They got to the base almost every single time, but they got stopped. I don't know if the Knights have that kind of resilience. The biggest thing about the two teams that Renegades went up against is that both of them know how to play from behind. Both of them can handle a 3-1. If this goes 3-1 very early on, which as of right now, it's definitely taken a pause. I think we see things maybe spiral out of control, but Knights are finding their footing, right? A lot of champions they haven't played this set, kind of switching over here. Ricotta playing the Maeve. For the first time, I think the entire time, you're going to have G-Bunny not on Khan. So they're just going to have to figure themselves out, feel themselves through. And I think the longer the game goes, it kind of balances out.
You know, Gord, who could be good through time and space. Lots of grouped up members there. It's not going to go that way. Viral ends up getting the kill, but it's a traditional route this time for him. Rest of the kills are blue as well, so they're going to be able to clean this one up, get back, get a touch on that payload, and hopefully get it moving forward. Granted, it's a longer map to fight through. Don't really have too much time for too many team sweeps, or excuse me, team wipes, if you're on the blue side of things here. And it's been interesting, Gore, in that up to this point, all three of the last games, the Knights have been the ones swinging first. And I almost wonder if that's that offensive aggression from G-Bunny on the Khan. I mean, Khan Atlas, I mean, it's almost pick bannable from him. I mean, it's hard because you do it anyway because the champions are so strong. But G-Bunny especially is such a difference maker on those champions that now having Moonchopper back with a little bit more comfort on his side, honestly, it's made a big difference.
And I think one of the biggest things that we could see is how this Ashe comes on.
He's still good at Ashe, though.
And
I mean,
that's,
no mistake.
I think the biggest thing, him getting picked off again, first blood, going onto this Ashe, getting rid of G-Bunny, gets rid of that potential that we've seen in every other game, which is he's going to come through and get 2 kills at the very beginning. If you lock him down, you're going to look good. If you get Hero on Barrack, he's going to look good. And I think this is what the Renegades had last week that they haven't had today, where it's just they get comfortable champions for everyone. They're just playing their game. And I think they've hit that mindset of, you know what? If we lose, we lose. Who cares anymore? We're at the bottom. We might as well just play. Just have fun. Don't think about who's on the other side. Don't think about the skill level they might have. Don't get nervous about whether or not you're going to win. Just play the game
I feel like
and do what you need to do.
That's such a solid point because so often throughout this split, the Renegades have had to play the other team's game and just try to fight through it, and it hasn't worked out. Last week was the first time we really saw them dictating a game. It, again, didn't work out in their favor, but it was closer. Not able to finish up that kill, notably, is Pan, so the healing is going to come through. It is overtime here, but at this point, if the Knights fall 1, 2, 3, things could spiral out of control. Ricotta is going to fall. Make it 2 now onto Dethroner. G-Bunny's alive. Pan goes down as well. This payload's rolling forward. G-Bunny has to stay alive behind the shield. The Assert Dominance is going to see to it that he buys just enough time for his respawns to come through. Still 2 members down now for the Pittsburgh Knights. That Assert Dominance is still ticking away. Just now time's out. If they find these kills, that's a good stun, but Viral, oh no, the healing's all gone now for the Renegades. What might have been could have been dashed against the rocks just now. Hero's just trying to prolong things, but that's all it's going to do. 1-1 for the Knights. That kill onto Viral was essential to that defensive stand.
No assert dominance coming into this round, though. That might affect G-Bunny. Again, if he takes the same pathing, if he goes the same route, he might just get blown up before you can finish a thought about it.
The assert dominance, I think, basically won the round there because he stunned and bought time and was contesting.
It was the only thing you could do there to not make it a 2-0. Right. And like that's one of those moments where you have to question, is a 2-0 going to favor us, hurt us? Which one do we think we stand on? And I think the Knights need that to go 1-1 because they need way more time to figure out this point fight. I don't know if they come in, even with comeback mechanic, if they can fight back based on what Renegades were able to accomplish last time around. I mean, Moonchopper has not died yet. Invocal, I believe, only had one death there. But now you have Resilience coming online. You have Cauterized 2s, 3s online for these players. And that, on its own, can change the pace of a game, especially for the likes of Dethroner and G-Bunny.
I love me some Moonchopper on the con just as much as I love G-Bunny on the con. Rakata's able to stay alive. Look at how much damage is turned around onto him. But it's going to be Red this time, finding the initial numbers advantage. Heroes had some good dashes through here. Payan, of course, on the Cassie. You always have to watch out for that. But this one has gone the exact opposite of the way the first point fight did. I think Gore, they figured things out.
I mean, they approached it from two fronts, right? They send G-Bunny on one side, they send Payan on the other side. They kind of pincered. Rakata trades out with Moonchopper, or trades out 1 for Moonchopper. But they were together.
Yeah.
I think it was a 3 on one side, 2 on other side. Just making that kind of split's really comfortable. A nice stun from Cuss that is going to be able to get a touch in overtime. But Hero just gets melted.
Nice,
and a nice
Viral
shot from Viral. And that's from downtown. They get rid of Dethroner too. They're going to come back in.
Oh no, bye-bye healing now for both teams. They are able to retake the point. But at what cost? They burn away the healer. This is 100% now on the Renegades, how good of a zone that they can get into this one. They used so much to try to retake that. Enlightenment will be back as well as the Crossfire, only scout ready for the Knights. Really dictating this one are the Renegades. They need to put their best foot forward here. 2-1 in their favor is huge in this case. There is the scout, so they're going to be able to see where everyone is. The early engage on this right side comes through, but they're only sending 2 members. You have to watch out for the opposite side. There's the Crossfire. It's going to burn right through that wall, but not fast enough. Shadow, though, that opens the door for him to drop out. Rakata wrapping around the backside here is Pain. He's able to dance around with just an inch of his life. Ooh, good seismic crash. Predicts the flank there, but Shadow is still alive. The Pittsburgh Knights have 4. The Renegades have 3, and Shadow's starting to go huge on the Leon, and that's all they need. They're not able to get in there and get the touch. Well played from the Renegades. Shadow comes up big right when you need him.
Assert dominance came down, but it was not on the point that entire time. The overtime timer's ticking down, and while G-Bunny was still up and even walking back towards the objective, it was a little too fast for him to catch to it. And so that's going to swing through. And not only do they get the point, but the biggest thing I think for Renegades is that they've captured 2 in a row now, which this is where things start to become even more of a problem. Even if this goes 2-2, even if it goes 3-3, if Renegades are the ones catching every single objective, then you start to see an economy shift in their favor. Not only kills being very good for them, but just credits in general starting to flow in. You get 300 per player every time you capture. And so because of that, even if they wipe here, they just get more items.
Absolutely, and that's the Inflame Midnight combo that's really winning this fight for the Knights, and you can see the moment that wears out, they're able to stall. Well, okay, never mind. I'll swap. They're able to stall things out. Oh no, they're all going to die anyway, so the Renegades get clean swept there. But they did burn Inflame. They did burn the Midnight as well. Scout on top of it. Renegades on the opposite end. The pendulum's now swinging back. The Renegades are going to be the next ones to have an ultimate advantage. Minute and 10 seconds left. It could be enough of an advantage, Gore, to maybe get this one pushed through. We saw around this time in the last round is when they finally got back to the payload. It nearly went in. Huge assert dominance, of course, from G-Bunny last round. Saved it for the Knights. This very well could have been a 3-0 at the moment. Right now, the Renegades have a little bit of a block to stop off here. Bowling balls have been good from Hero up to this point. Nice shielding, able to dash around the corner, but Payan is still there and waiting. That's the Enlightenment just to seal things up onto Dethroner as well. Shadow is really starting to pop off here. That's what you look for out of the Renegades. You need Shadow, you need Invocal. One of those two really has to start popping off. And this time it's Shadow.
I mean, being able to come through, that's a full 5-man wipe. Payload's still pretty far back, but somebody should be able to touch down. No one on Renegades. There they go. Finally get on that one to start pushing it forward. 20 seconds left, though. Even if you go in overtime, this is a long push. This is a long push when you have 2.5 minutes to do it. This is a very long push when you have 10 seconds left to do 50%, all of which will be pretty much in overtime. And arguably the hardest half
Yeah.
of the push on Frozen Guard happening through that duration.
Yeah, Pan's not even wanting to give up an inch here on the opposite side. If that came through, things would have gotten interesting. Shadow nearly plugging away. Moonchopper's very low as well. That's a beautiful
Nice
stun. I think that's going to do it here on this defensive side, unless Shadow's able to turn around a good bit of damage here. Hero's staying alive. Both frontliners go down. There's not going to be anyone left to contest. Oh, but he stays alive just long enough to open the door for his team. But Rakata, he's still running rampant in the back line. The question is Invoco able to find the kill? And he does. This payload's getting close score. There's only Furia left. I don't think he realizes he's back there. Cuss Cutie, does he find the stun? He does, but he jumps down. They could do it here. Shadow's plugging away damage. The respawns are back now for the Knights. Moonchopper's the one in the base. They need to stay alive as long as they possibly can.
Moonchopper died and ran all the way back over here. Rakata.
Oh, no.
Oh, you get that one, but it was literally almost lost on a single dagger not connecting. If he lives in that 1v1, gets the kill, he can move in on that Leon. He dies there, and it's only because he happens to glance slightly too far to the left. One dagger doesn't connect. That would have been the kill.
I'm so sad.
And Shadow is
doing a lot. I
doing
was jumping up and down. I was ready for that to go in. It doesn't this time around. And
Renegades are up there.
Twice, though. I mean, look at that. That could have been the 4-0. I mean, the first payload push doesn't go through by the hair, by the skin of Pittsburgh Knights' teeth. This one, again, nearly goes through in favor of the Renegades, but it doesn't. They don't use anything. Notably, this is a almost full 5. Dethroner has to burn the seismic crash. That's where you have to look here. If you really want to split hairs, it's a 5 full ultimate suite for the Renegades. The scout as well comes through now for the Knights. That's going to give them some vision advantage here for a moment. Here's the Inflame. Be careful. Oh, the Overpower's going to stop them right in their tracks. There's the Midnight, but they're fighting at a numbers disadvantage. Shadow comes up huge. Dethroner is the only one with the kill on the side of the Knights. Pan, though, he could free fire from the back line right here. They need to clean him up, and they need to clean him up now because once he starts to pop off, things get scary. They nip that one in the bud, and the Renegades, they only lose 2. The Knights are clean swept, and now they're fighting from the back foot.
Overall, an awkward trade, but Renegades keep the 2 front lines alive. The 2 that I would argue are the most important to keep going. And if Rakata can go big here, then that might make a big difference. But I mean, it's 63-21. Renegades are going to have to pick up a lot, or not even pick up a lot of slack. Knights are going to have to pick up a lot of slack if they need to come through.
Oh,
and it just comes down to the consistency of what they have. You need Payan, you need Rakata, and they have to go big.
And look at this. He's able to free fire. He's just chilling up on that wall, free firing away. They'll have a chance to get back in and get a touch right now, but they're not going to do it in this round. Just trying to stall himself out is Viral. So the Knights are back on the point here. No fast cap for either side. Shadow trades one out onto Rakata, which is no... Oh, if he was able to turn that one around onto Pan, that could have been huge. Doesn't do it this time. It's a 2-for-1 trade on the back end of that initial fight. 78%. I'm not sure they're going to have time to get in here and do it. Moonchopper with a shout negates a little bit of that early damage, 96%. Moonchopper gets blocked off, and that's all they need. The Knights, they answer point number 3.
And 2-2 is one of the most dangerous score lines to go into a point fight with, because now that Knights have captured that up, they're up 3-2. They can push for the win, not only of the map, but the set. It does kind of depend on this fight. A lot of damage going the way of the Renegades, and Vocal melting through people, but so far it's 1-for-1.
So much value out of the hunting mark there. Dethroner's going to catch it. Now it's on to G-Bunny. Look at the way that melts right through him. The shoulder bash is going to just buy some time here. Cuss Cutie and Rakata now are being surrounded by the rest of the Renegades. Dancing around, though, able to trade out some damage if he's able to get this kill. Makes things a little bit interesting. Inflame, too. That's a late Inflame, and Rakata's going to be the beneficiary. Maybe a triple kill. Oh, my. Payan sweeps through and takes it. But the Knights, that could have been a sweep. That is an important fight win for them, because now not only are they not zoned out in their base, they're really pushing in for the win.
And being able to come through. Solid control, ults available that they want to throw out. I mean, a Midnight, they're absolutely willing to. A Seismic Crash, they're absolutely willing to. And, I mean, worst case scenario, try to do what you can, pull what you can from the Renegades. Even if they get a defense, if they use all their resources, that's great.
This is tough. 20-10 for Shadow, 15-7 for Invocal. That does not look like a losing slash line to me. Overpower, early overpower. Hero needs to stay alive. It looks like they're going to win this initial engage, but still a minute left on the clock. Shadow cleans up this one. The Knights are pushed back. The Renegades really need to buy themselves some space here, because that is about an inch away from going through.
And now here's the biggest question for me. Where do Renegades go with this defense? You notice they have not left the base.
Yeah.
And this is because of
They're
what my other thought was,
all the pressure.
which was keeping your eye on Maeve. We've seen a lot of flanks slip into the back line and get a push through a back door. And nothing feels worse, not just to end a set, but to end a map, but to end a set on a backdoor would be big. So I don't think Renegades leave specifically because they don't want to risk that.
Oh, these daggers.
But these daggers are so clean.
Oh, is he able to finish the kill? He misses his final dagger. That's massive that he's able to stay alive. But G-Bunny, he walks through. The assert dominance gets him onto the high ground to clean up Invocal, and that's the only kill coming through right now for the Knights. This could be a Renegades win on the point. That's too far to walk back. You have 10 seconds left. Half of that's going to be a respawn. That was a by the skin of your teeth defense here for the Renegades, and they have a bit of an ultimate advantage going into it. Only Inflame, only Seismic Crash close. Renegades have 3. Overpower is going to be up as well. This is the 3-3 for the set, Goremizer. Pittsburgh Knights could win the set. Renegades could find themselves win number 1. This is do or die.
And they have exactly what they need, and they've taken away exactly what the Knights need to win, right? Knights were very successful during that last point fight, but they don't have anywhere near the resources they had coming into it. Now, yeah, Inflame's really good. Inflame can be a win team fight button, especially if Payan keeps playing at the level he's playing, and if Ricotta is hitting the way Ricotta was hitting during the mid-fight. But if we see the same Ricotta that just choked the last couple of hits on that kill, then all of a sudden, Knights too. They are not in the game anymore. 3-3 is a dangerous area to come into this.
Couple master ridings.
Does shake down a lot of master ridings.
A lot of master ridings.
4.
Gets them through. Resiliences as well. This is on a knife edge right now. Here's the Inflame. Early Inflame. Viral finding Cuss Cutie. That is big. Massive. Through time and space. This fight is already tilted in the wrong direction if you're a Knights fan here. That's going to allow Shadow and the rest of the boys to find the damage, and that's exactly what they're going to do. And they don't have to burn too much in return. Beautiful. Viral single-handedly sets up that fight for success. Renegades are on the point now. They have an Enlightenment. Overpower almost up as well. They have the tools to defend this. The Knights throw everything at the wall. Renegades could win the game here.
You know those ults we were talking about? Knights used both of them before that team wipe.
81%.
Dies. We have seen Renegades throw a set from
Cuss
this
dies
position
again.
before, but Cuss is gone. You have no support.
There you go, Renegades.
No stance.
They get the monkey off the back. They win a 4-3. That is what you look for. Hero, tapping the chairs. That is what you need if you're on the side of Renegades. Get the monkey off your back. Realize that you deserve to be here. You deserve to be fighting. Well played by them on their side. That was the cleanest final team fight I've seen out of them up to this point.
Yeah.
No 4-0 today.
You can see, I mean, this is where the difference is drawn. You see the Knights after that talking to each other. Like, yeah, they do look disappointed, but it's kind of like, yeah, I think we could have done something differently. Like, that fight didn't go our way. Maybe this ult, maybe this ult.
Yep.
But the Renegades played the way the Renegades played last week. That's the performance they need. That's what I've been missing.
Yep, big smiles from the Renegades. We see them walking by here. Could be the beginning of a reverse sweep. To tell us more about it, let's send it to the desk.
Thanks a lot, Dulcin. Thanks a lot, Gore. Great job on the cast. And that excitement is what we wanted. We were talking a lot about, body language, the mental side of the game, all the stuff outside of the X's and O's. And watching Renegades, they certainly didn't look happy and honestly looked like they were accepting the 4-0, but they do anything but. Invocal and Shadow really stepping up here.
Definitely. You're seeing a lot of big numbers come out of them. This double damage amp composition starting to really kind of pay off. Especially, we talked about they don't have a flank necessarily to hard dive onto any targets, but they do have Shadow there poking and prodding away from a very effective range. Leon is one of those power mid-rangers that we've seen kind of fall off. 26 and 11 he ends up going. It's a very good matchup against Maeve. I think you can see that reflected in the slash line of Ricotta.
Yeah, and when Shadow's Leon this is one of those just flair choices. Metas come and go, but when you're good at a character, you're good at a character.
Yeah.
You can't really drag something up from the absolute bottoms, but when you got a character that slipped a couple of tier list spots, so to speak, you can absolutely do the work. And again, this has been the motif of the entire afternoon. DPS or somebody does a great job, and it's all brought to you by Frontline. Moonchopper, crushing it.
Very great sequence there, making sure that he's rotating his cooldowns, sustaining himself as well as possible. Well-timed commander's grab, because the thing does good damage as well. So getting those commander's grab kills, very, very important. Overpower, one of, if not the most important ultimate in the game of Paladins, to just pick up and potentially delete someone off the face of the map. So very, very important role that he's fulfilling. talked a lot about this guy. He was really bearing the brunt force of a lot of this mentality shift. This is the new full-time drafter. Before it was Shadow, now it's Moonchopper, and part of that we got to kind of hear a little bit in an interview as to why is Moonchopper came from a DPS role, so now playing the front line, he's got the insight in both roles and can kind of understand, I think, on a deeper level, how to pick and why to pick, in what position you want to get those picks.
Stylish guy in game and out of game, and what I love about him is playing. He plays. He's a guy like me. He plays for the Jiffy Cat, man, trying to get on that highlight reel, but absolutely and making room for his team to do whatever they want to do and win. Is what they wanted to do last game. They did just that. Renegade, and look, this is all it takes sometimes, a single win. I have so much more confidence in Renegades in game number 5 than I did in game number 4, just by looking at what's going on here.
Yeah, and I really love what we saw from Hero, trying his best to get the guys fired up after that very, very close win.
Huge. That's
what they need, honestly. If you go on losing as the Renegades, you really just kind of take a step back, look at this team as a whole, and say they need like that Phoenix. They need that guy to make them laugh. They need that dude to just kind of be the front man for the squad, to bring the energy week in and week out. That's what I feel they've been lacking, is just you can't just sit there and stew in the silence of a loss like they always do. It's almost become a meme to the point where they'll lose a game and everyone's hands are just still on the keyboard and mouse and they're just like blankly staring at their screens. It's a weird vibe after their losses. I want them to snap out of this quicker, and I think Hero might be the guy that just does that for them.
On the other side, you saw Pittsburgh Knights post-game, and they were kind of confused, looking at each other, but Cuss in the middle just smiling and kind of having like a, I'm not exactly a lip reader, sorry folks, but watching Cuss talk to the team generally felt like all right, wasn't the greatest. We can fix that. We can do better. More of a, that shouldn't have happened,
Still
boys.
up 3-1.
Move on.
Yeah.
No big deal. As opposed to the look of the face of, oh, that happened. Oh, no.
Yeah.
So Pittsburgh Knights still feeling real comfortable here.
That was kind of one of those wars. Like we said, Rukata had some seriously tough matchups to fight into. I think he was 10-17 by the end of it. That's one that's like you lose that one. You maybe even realize like this is just going to be so hard the entire 18-20 minutes that it goes on. And if we lose, it's like, well, we've been mentally on terms with we might lose this game for 15 minutes at this point.
We're already here. We'll see what stop we wind up on. And that stop will take us to Jaguar Falls.
I love that we've got just a little bit of Vox permeating our
Jaguar.
Our hearts and our hearts and our minds here on the broadcast. Shout outs to the boy. Hope he's doing well. The Knights will have first pick here on Jaguar Falls. They are up 3-1. The potential to close it out here. One thing I'm on high alert for is Drogos on this map. It was something the Knights brought out the last time. One of, I want to say, 2 Drogos on Jaguar Falls games that we've seen all split long. The only other played by Fisheko, but Payan kind of saw what he did and said, I could do that. This can be very, very effective. And with Leon almost on a high alert in this set, I think it's not as free or as, maybe kind of jumping at the bit to grab that pick, but the Knights is definitely wary of this.
Something in the, maybe not the bottom of everybody's mind, maybe somewhere around that middle shelf. Knights, first selection. Time and time again, we've seen Khan come through. I think it should be the same damn thing. No reason to mess with this. Khan has been integral in every team that has played him. It's a really, really big deal.
Moonchopper, very good on the character. G-Bunny, very good on the character. It's tough not to take it. But Payan is the guy. It's either that Drogos or it could be the Pip. That's another thing that NIP have done here, and I think they have damn near 100% win. I would almost venture to say they have almost a 100% 4-0 rate on Jaguar Falls when they can get Pip. To the point where I'm actually surprised if teams aren't banning Pip against that team in particular. Payan is one of the few other, loves to play Pip, can hyper carry a game on Pip type of players. So it's either the Drogos or the Pip, but regardless of that, I think they're looking to make Payan their win condition.
We have seen some of that Pip today. looked really strong.
Tyra's a good
Renegades
call.
here, and I like this switch up. Ash, I feel like Con Ash are picks 1 and 2, and that's what we got to get used to. In that secondary selection, though, who you choose next to your Ash, very important.
Very.
And while Tyra on her own is one thing, what you've done here for Renegades, if you've now set up that you've got damage amp on your team. We assessed that game number 4 was won in Renegades' favor largely because of that damage amp. And so starting with Tyra, that's saying, we know why we won, and we're going to stick to it here. Knights take Cassie into Throner's Barrack.
Absolutely. Tyra is a big thing to take away from the Knights if they were going to run that pip. So you almost diffuse that strategy or that bomb before you really have to come and face it full force. So I like the Tyra takeaway. I think it's actually been doing very well in the set. And today as a whole, Tyra has really taken a step up.
She has.
Not to say she's going to be ban-worthy or first pick, but going top 3 is honestly not something I'm really shaking my head at this point.
She's been so powerful, and again, less about Tyra
sanctity
herself
of
and
the
more about how
wild.
she helps the teammates. Renegades amplify themselves with the Tyra choice, but it does open the other side to the Barrack. Now, you were talking about Tyra kind of keeping Pip at bay, but
Right.
Knight's still thinking about it and will lock it in nonetheless.
The way that it's usually played for NIP is if they got Tyra as well, it would just be Khan, Pip running around. Pip would keep both himself and Khan at or near full HP, and Tyra would be hoofing it along, trying to keep up as best she can, keeping their targets marked and providing what type of damage they could. That's just an element they won't have. It's still not, it doesn't mean that they can't work at all.
Grover, the choice one more time here for Cuss. We saw him play it earlier today, and kind of left some to be desired, I think. So hopefully this one a little bit more exciting.
Come here, grumpy boy.
The Bomb King's the final selection here. And these picks are strong, but not as just Swiss Army knife all times at all places as they once were. But Tyra Bomb King's so strong on Jaguar Falls, and I think it's a really nice combination to actually run together.
Renegades a little bit more lively, it looks like. Certainly a little bit more excited, a little bit more just with it in general, and that is the biggest thing. The composition, the play style, it's the engagement. Honestly, you can sit up here and sleepwalk through your set, and you're not gonna find the victory. I love how engaged Renegades look like right now.
Yeah, I like both these drafts. I'm curious to see how the Grover does as well. This is one of his better maps as well because he heals through line of sight breakers. As long as you're within range, even if you're behind a wall, Grover's still going to be able to look at you. You have the Khan Battle Shout, the Pip Healing Potion, and the Grover here. There's so much sustain for the Knights.
Pittsburgh looking for the set. We'll see if they take it.
Just one game away. Jaguar Falls is what it comes down to for the Pittsburgh Knights. Well, every other map is all that it comes down to for the Pittsburgh Knights. The Renegades, they found one. They still need to win 3 more, something no one has done yet here in the PPL. The momentum could be enough to find them 1 win, but that's really the way you have to look at it, Gore, is just, let's win this game. All right, let's win this game. You got to go at it one at a time, but you know what scares me is paying on the Pip.
Pan on the Pip. And there's a good reason to be scared, specifically on this map. This is one of the ones, even last week, where it was just like, I think it was 2 maps in a row, they lose, and then their Jaguar Falls, they just blow everyone out of the water, and then they come back and they lose 2 more. It's like a 4-1, but the one they win was Jag Falls, and it was a very, very dominant win.
God.
And a lot of it has to do with this Pip.
You see that.
Look at all the health
the
bars.
AoE damage is enough to force everyone on the Renegades off and around that corner. Viral notably took 1 too many Pip shots on the chin there. Has to drop back off. The early positional advantage going the way of the Knights here, but it's how they fight back. Dethroner getting some good healing from Grover as well, but is it enough? It is. Right now, Pip giving him a little bit of healing on top of that. And, well, I mean, Payan hasn't moved. Payan has not moved. He's been up top here the entire time. Drops the first kill of the game, but so much healing as well. They haven't been able to touch him. He just drops a little healing down onto Dethroner. I'm going to turn and drop some damage down onto the side of the Renegades. 84% already here for the Knights.
And I mean, just solid control. Dethroner's playing probably one of the best point tanks to play on this map. Yeah, Inara's going to be able to hold up to it, but I feel like Barrack, where he can place his turrets, keep himself alive, keep himself healed, dance around, like, it's just, it plays perfectly for him. And Knights, especially with that Evil Mojo, are looking real good.
There it is. That one gets capitalized. That's a triple kill for the Pip. That's why I said I was scared of it. Moonchopper finds the lowly kill in this one. Only a handful of teams pick up the Pip on Jaguar Falls, but the ones that do, they tend to play it very well. Triple kill for Payan on this Pip. They're pushing for the 2-0.
And they're set up pretty solidly to just get this payload at least halfway, right? This is like we're going to get this as far as we can first. We might end up having a shaky loss depending on where this fight comes through, especially from like Moonchopper up here. And there's a King Bomb available. Like what Renegades throw at the wall to see if they can stop Knights is going to be just as big as what the Knights are doing to try and prepare themselves to break through this archway.
Look at this like 1-2 punch. G-Bunny's leading the charge and Payan is just hanging out behind. They don't expect the Grover to come up either. Payan with the 1 kill in this engagement. Game paused out just at the moment. Renegades lose 1 is the last that we see. Things sort of in their favor. The assert dominance as well came through to stun some up. And things really get rolling against you on Jaguar Falls. It's one of those very steamrolling maps, especially when you have the Pip on the opposite side as well, and the huge evil mojo that you already saw from Payan. And that's why I said I was scared of it, because he can take a game over.
I've been mentioning like either on the desk when I was talking to Tom for things where it's just like at any point in time, Payan can go 27-3. The times he went 27-3 were on Pip. And it was usually on Jack Falls, sometimes Stone Keep. So this is something that has not only been proven for the Knights to be really good, but has been very solid on this map every single time.
Every single time.
And it's actually one of those few picks where you have to kind of, I would weigh, this Atlas band that comes through from Renegades, I kind of would have rather seen a Pip.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll change through the other however long rest of the game it's going to be, but as of right now, I think this Pip has been demolishing people, to say the least.
Yes, and they're able to answer back. So we come back into game here, and Vocal has a couple for the Renegades. So that's huge. It's now a 3v3, though. The respawn still coming through from that initial engage. Payan, notably, is staying alive through all of this. And they're able to respawn, nearly picking him off there onto the side, but this little ring, they're just fighting around Grover right now, and the Pip healing stacked with the Grover healing has just been too much. Cauterize needs to be an emphasis now for the Renegades, and very quickly, because even that 10k, I mean, that's 1/4 of a healer that he already has coming through. Evil Mojo onto Hero.
Jeez.
That health bar becomes very small. They don't get the kill, though. Instead, the King Bomb comes through. That's how you deal with Payan. You get up into his face with an ultimate like that. That sets you up for success. Shadow finds the kill. Rakata, though, he turns it around within an inch of his life. Moonchopper cleans that one up, and the tanks are just going toe-to-toe right now. G-Bunny and Rakata might have turned things around just enough time in favor. You got 2 frontliners and a healer all fighting right now. If you're on the side of the Knights, Dethroner gets a bowling ball, gets a little bit of extra shielding. Here's the crossfire, though, Gore. That could be enough to turn things around for the Renegades.
All respawn proximity as well coming out for the Renegades, but they have used 2 huge teamfight ults to win this and just kind of find some control. They have been able to push the Knights back, though, pretty much towards the mid-fight, more towards the point and where it will capture. They're sitting behind the wall. Because of that, they're going to wait. They're going to regroup. They should, emphasis on should, be able to get an overtime touch. But the question is whether or not they're going to do it healthily, I think, is the big thing. Dethroner gets up to the wall. He's got enough health. Full bar right now. But the minute they see him, his health bar is going to drain.
It's a very intricate moment here for both teams. You cannot get too far out of position.
What a good pull.
Moonchopper catches the overpower. That's massive. Did he get back onto it? No, he didn't. Looked like he tried with the assert dominance. The cooldown gets reset since it didn't connect. The seismic crash, connects right as one of them dashes forward. But unfortunately for the Renegades, all the kills are coming up blue. All the damage is going blue. Hero's the last line of defense right now. You need these respawns to come in right now, and Vocal has to stay alive. G-Bunny's trying to hunt him down. He gets a little healing, but they don't end up getting the kill onto him. Hero and Vocal both down. This one's going to go in for the Pittsburgh Knights shortly after that. 2-0. And I think they bounced back from that frozen guard loss, Gore.
Oh, yeah.
I don't like calling things before it's done, but they are really firing on all cylinders here on Jag Falls.
Well, the biggest thing I think that's going for the Renegades is the same thing we were saying going for them in that last fight on Frozen Guard. They have some good ults. They were able to charge back the King Bomb almost all the way. Same thing for the Crossfire. So game-changing ults is still available. But speaking of game-changing ults, you can't let that happen. He got a double kill with one shot and the triple kill with the second one. This Pip is deadly. This Pip
as well.
is scary. And I think when you look at these two in tandem, when you look at the survivability of the Knights, you have to have something to counter him. And that just means resilience needs to be your #1 item of ever.
And I don't want to overextend, but I feel like you're playing NIP on Jag Falls, you're playing Pittsburgh Knights on Jag Falls. I feel like you need to know. Ooh, well played, CC immunity. Well played there from Hero, CC Immunity right into the Evil Mojo, blocks that off, and that might be all they need. The Assert Dominance comes through as well. Rakata's still alive, though. Beware the free firing Cassie. That's some good healing, a stun as well. But still he stays alive. Still he finds the kills right now. And the Pittsburgh Knights, without even their most impactful ultimates connecting, win this fight.
And just being able to, like you said, have the wherewithal to CC immune that and block out an Evil Mojo, and then still lose the fight. Like, that's not even Payan getting a triple tap with one shot. That is just Payan coming through and being like, okay, I guess I have to play the normal way I play Pip, but that's going to be a good Dread Serpent to get him off the high ground.
Gets him off the high ground. The King Bomb needs to connect as well. That Whirlwind buys a little bit of time. The Dome Shield, though, drops down for the side of the Pittsburgh Knights. Dethroner's going to be the one to use that. Shadow's just going toe-to-toe right now, but all the kills still Gore. They're using all of their ultimates, and the Knights still come out on top of these fights.
And it's one of those moments, Moonchopper was alive, but there was almost no way to touch the objective. Feel confident touching the objective, and, well, there's one stat to look at and one thing I can echo, and that is that Cuss, as of right now, I believe, is undying 23 streak. And if you can't kill the Grover, the team just gets out of hand.
No, he's been on point. The Whirlwinds have connected. Everything working in favor of the Knights. Cuss Cutie really the backbone of this. And this is where we saw it at the last time. He was up there on the left with everyone else. 110,000 damage and not dying.
30.
That's massive. That's a good overpower for the for Pittsburgh Knights, Renegades balance it out just a little bit. Assert Dominance comes in as well. Moonchopper, they need to win this fight handily, and they need to get a zone, because the way the Knights are playing right now, Gore, I don't know if they'll stop them if the fight continues in their base.
What they need to do is kill this Grover. Cuss keeps walking out of these fights. And now you're going to have Viral Crew getting a little more aggressive, because, look, he's back in the defensive line. He's exactly where he needs to go. So low, but he still walks out alive. He was one hit there. And now he's going to be able to come back into it. Because of him living, not only living, but has the Whirlwind, and they have an Evil Mojo. Like, this is good.
And they get Shadow. I mean, I like to talk about reverse sweeps, because that's sort of, that's the storyline that gets brought into play. You go down 3-0 and you find a win. Okay, maybe there's a little bit of a chance for you, but the way the Pittsburgh Knights are playing right now, I don't know if there's any chance for the Renegades to bounce back from this one. The healing's too good. This payload is way too close with not enough time for the Renegades. Oh, beautiful, beautiful shots from Payan. The Whirlwind as well. Here's the Evil Mojo. That gets Hero. I think this is going to do it, Gore. Rakata's connecting with his shots. G-Bunny does as well. The reverse sweep is no more. The Renegades are going to fall 3-1 to the Pittsburgh Knights.
And, to end it
4-1
as a 4-0 at the very end, right? To be able to come in and be like, all right, you know what? Frozen Guard, we'll let you have that one. That's okay. But Jaguar Falls is our territory, and you ran into where we wanted to go. And I think what you were saying was very appropriate. If you are playing NIP on Jag Falls, if you are playing the Knights on Jag Falls, you gotta ban Pip, or you better be prepared to deal with him, because he is going to do some dirty things that we might not be allowed to show on broadcast.
And I think, barely were allowed to show that chicken slaughter that we saw. A triple kill comes through, and Gore, that's all we needed to see the way this game was going to go. A triple Evil Mojo, a triple kill. I don't know. I think we said it best. Yeah. If you're playing one of these two teams, either ban it, pick it, or be prepared to play against it, because that's how impactful it can be.
I will say, though, as I guess condolences overall for Renegades, that one map, when they're on Frozen Guard, that is phenomenal. Yeah. They looked really good there. There were a lot of moments that were really good for the Knights, but the thing is, the Knights were very consistently good through all of those. I can't even remember what the first map was. I can only remember so far back as bizarre as the way things were going.
Stonekeep?
But they were very good.
What's Stonekeep?
And it was very fun.
Well, like I said, it's going to end a 4-1. Renegades find themselves a win this week. So small improvements on their side. But the Pittsburgh Knights, they're the ones who find the win. Let's send it back to the desk and break down game number 2.
Space Station Gaming and Pittsburgh Knights are our two victors of our two sets that we've played so far. Coming up next, we've got one more. But first, let's reflect. Renegade find a single game win here as the 4-1 goes in the direction of the black and yellow. The one game they won was very lopsided. This one?
Yeah.
Different story.
Absolutely. Part of that is, of course, Payne have a rock-solid performance on the Pip. I think Cuss Cutie keeping up big heals on the Grover. And just the way that this team sustains, there is so much area of effect healing that they really can just kind of steamroll you, and that's reflected in the 4-0 scoreline here on Jack Falls.
Yeah, I mean, Cuss is a special type of individual, real smooth brain guy over there, but 3-0 and 26, you can't really complain about it. Really fantastic stuff, and part of what allowed Knights to take this game for sure.
I mean, that's got to be damn near 100% kill participation,
yeah.
26 assists. Very critical participation stats here from Cuss Cutie. A 16.0 KDA as the Knights capture their third there on screen and push that one in for the eventual 4-0.
You know, it's sometimes you need us to give you the history and tell us to tell you this guy's been around a long time. Other times you can tell the veterans from their gameplay itself. This is absolutely the type of standout performance you expect to see from a longtime staple of the Paladin scene, and Cuss does just that, bringing his team the victory 4-1 in the direction of Pittsburgh Knights. They're going to take that one and look a hell of a lot cleaner than they have in the past. Unfortunately, they will be in the 7th spot, but with one more win in their column.
Creeping up on Kanga now as well. You got to definitely keep an eye on that. Kanga Esports have to make sure that they lock things down for the remainder of this phase to maintain that cutoff. 6th place and up is going to MSI. So right now the Knights and the Renegades are the only teams not in the cutoff. Not out of the running, though. I will say there is still a chance to flip.
That's exciting because with this win, this all of a sudden makes it real. I think for Pittsburgh Knights. When you're sitting down there and you got 1 win, 2 wins, you're sitting, you're like, we can technically make it to MSI, but not this all of a sudden. Destiny in my hands. So Pittsburgh Knights have the victory in their hands and their own destiny. Coming up, we've got an interview. Cuss Cutie and Ricotta. What's up?
Well, hey guys, congratulations on your win, and a really solid one at that. Frozen Guard goes the distance, but to end on a 4-0 on Jag Falls, how are you feeling right now?
It feels good to win. We don't do it often, so when we do it, that's awesome. We have 2 more wins to go, and then Kanga needs to lose out, and we'll see you guys at MSI.
Absolutely. So the dream is still alive for MSI. Kind of want to keep it broad, at least to start off. What worked so well for you guys today? It's been sort of an up and down start, but there are a lot of games where you guys just
as a
played
team
so well.
This past week in scrims, we focused a lot less on things down to the individual, what we can do better mechanically, and we just grew as friends and teammates. As a leader, I've always tried to look at the wrong thing, I think, in terms of like, what are we doing wrong? Why are we collapsing? Why are other teams just barely coming out ahead of us? And I realized that we just aren't on the same page at the same time. I focus a lot less on improving myself and just getting everyone together. We're just doing more team exercises. We're doing more team VOD reviews. We're going harder than we've ever went. And it feels good to win. It feels so good.
Well, it definitely shows through what you did because, again, without Frozen Guard there, that's solid victories every single map you came through. And so I do kind of want to focus in on it. What was it about Frozen Guard that kind of made you struggle? Was it just Renegades having a solid draft? Or?
I threw the game.
No, it wasn't your fault. As a team, we've always struggled a bit with a few certain comps, and we're still a little uncomfortable fighting against that Genos. And I think that was a variable that kind of caught us off guard a few times.
Cuss, you've been around the scene for a long time, and on this Pittsburgh Knights team, I hear you guys talking about things sweeping up. What's different about this sort of era of Paladins versus what we've seen in the past?
Everybody is way better than we were in the past. I was considered one of the top DPS players 3 years ago, and I think there's pubbers that are way better than me at DPS now. So skill level has obviously increased, and you have to improve with it. So.
Well, hey guys, congratulations once again on your win. We still have one more set to go today, but for now, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Paladins Premier League, brought to you by Evil Mojo, Hi-Res Studios, INAP, Respawn, Steel Series, Alienware, and Shot.